All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? Do that sound horn real quick. Hit that horn real quick.
Hey, let's go.
What's going on, everybody? We are live. Welcome to the session of the Gov Cloud Podcast, number one Polynesian podcast in the world. You guys already know my name. My name is Will. I am the host of this show. We have a great topic for you guys tonight. We have a great panel of guests to discuss for tonight's show. So thank you so much. If you're watching this, if you're tuning in for the very first time, thank you so much for tuning in. Always appreciate you guys joining in every single week on my show. And for all my subscribers out there, everybody out there support my channel, always tuning in every single week. Thank you so much. You guys already know what to do. If you love the content, appreciate the work that I do, and support the platform, press that like and subscribe button real quick. Don't forget, do have a quick disclaimer real quick. Everybody out there under the age of 18, we are going to have some adult conversations tonight. We have a great topic to discuss tonight and some great videos for you guys to tune in and react to as well. Don't forget, we do have the live chat, so definitely get that live chat going. I do see people already jumping in and viewing the show already. So you guys, hello to everybody out there, and get that live chat going. I always appreciate you guys always dropping your comments, your feedback. Always let me know what you guys think about the comments and the discussions that we have every single night. So definitely get that live chat going. I appreciate you guys real quick. Don't forget, this is a public show, so I always advocate for people to jump on and be part of the conversation, whether we agree or disagree. But the most important thing is we got to have the conversation, especially the different topics that we discuss every single show. I'll definitely post a public link on the live chat, and I'll pin it to the top of the live chat so you guys can be able to click on that link and be able to be part of this conversation. So whether we agree or disagree, but let's have a conversation. And I know there's a lot of people out there have their thoughts and disagreements, but I would love to have a conversation with you guys, and I invite you guys to be part of the show as well. Don't forget, we do have the super chat donations. Much love to everybody that always donates financially to my channel every single week. Thank you so much for supporting me with your pockets. Everything will be reinvested to my content and to my channel, so that way I can give you guys the best quality content for you guys. Thank you so much for all your love and support. The best way to drop a super chat, ask it through a question, ask it through a topic, so that way we can reciprocate it and we can answer any questions or any topics that you guys may have. We can answer it live on the show to thank you and also show you some love. So if you guys have a specific question that you guys want us to discuss, you have a specific topic that you guys want to also add on to the conversation, to the topic that we're already discussing tonight, drop it through a super chat and I'll make you a high priority. Give a shout out to thank you, but we'll also be able to discuss it live on those shows. So nevertheless, that's pretty much it. You guys already know the topic that we have at hand. Also, I just want to say thank you so much real quick to my lovely guests for taking the time out of their busy day to be part of this conversation, to be part of this podcast. Always appreciate you guys taking the time. Thank you so much. But we'll go ahead and do some quick intros real quick for everybody that's watching this right now for the very first time, so that way you guys know who we are. I'll start off with our newest guest. Well, not our newest guest. He's been on my show. he's been on my show in the past, but this is the first time he's officially part of the panel. I'll allow him to introduce himself real quick. Go ahead, Devil's Advocate. Go ahead and introduce yourself, everybody out there.
What's going on, guys? I'm just your everyday dude. I like to play devil's advocate. Little background on me: I was a economics major. I ran track in college. Out of college, my work centered around risk mitigation and customer service, kind of your everyday corporate job. I do a little, like your everyday millennial, I do a little crypto trading. The boomers hate it. And I like to stay up to date in current events and kind of prod people's views. Even if I agree with them, I just think it's healthy to kind of test people's views. I guess what would really help put a finger on my personality is, like, I really enjoyed a philosophy class where a teacher would say, yeah, I know you're this political party, but today you're going to be arguing for communism. So you understand the other people's arguments, even though you disagree with them. And that's what I like to do no matter what situation I'm in, just to kind of learn. Because a lot of times that's when you learn, is when you try and put yourself in other people's shoes. And so that's probably what you'll see me do a little bit today.
All right, no worries, no worries. Thank you so much, Devil's Advocate. People that watch my show always know I'm really big into facts and statistics and data, but Devil's Advocate is a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level above me when it comes to statistics and data. So I really appreciate having him on the show. Underground Roads, hello. I brought my Velcro. That's an insider joke. If you know what that means, the Velcro joke. That was from a previous show. Thank you so much, Underground Roads, for tuning in tonight. And then Brown Girl from the Islands, what's the topic tonight? We're talking about simp Will Smith. Yeah, we're definitely going to react to that topic tonight as part of the extra, as part of our conversation that we're going to have tonight. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. If you everybody out there watching right now, thank you so much for tuning in. Get that live chat going. But let me pass it on to our next guest, Tui. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
My name is Tui Sina. I'm a regular on here. Sometimes I'm great. Sometimes I'm unprepared. Sometimes I just make shit up and it makes sense. I am from Hawaii. I have no qualifications to talk about anything we're talking about now, but I am a single mom, not because I'm a hoe, but because I'm a widow. Hello.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Tui, for always jumping on every single weekend on the show.
I'm just surprised you still have me on here, Will. Like I'm a shit show every time.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry to hear that for all the times we've been on the panel together.
hey, Tui, I always appreciate you for all the way from the beginning. So everybody, ever since the beginning, you was always being here for my shows. Whatever, doesn't matter what happens, you're always going to have a place here in the Cup of Coffee podcast.
Will, I was about to say bless you because you're like, I'm going to introduce our next guest, Tui. I thought it was a sneeze. My bad. I'm just throwing shade.
No worries. Yeah, and last but not least, I'll pass it on to our last guest. And of course, we're going to have some guests that's going to jump on a little bit later tonight as they jump on when they get on the show. But Daniela, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Yes, Yodova and Marorele to everyone currently watching this on the interweb. I'm Daniela. I am previously a construction professional for probably the last 10 plus years. I have been a construction manager for the last 7 years. So my viewpoint, my worldview is not just based on stats and studies and whatnot. It is from actual lived experience by people that I've helped consult through the industry. And not only that, my own experience with relationship and the people around me. So, looking forward to this topic in particular, because I previously discussed with Will, I am part of a minority group that have experienced this and is currently going through a relationship with a single mother. But there are a few caveats to why it is that I've chosen that pathway to go through. And like I always mention to a lot of people when I speak on certain opinions, is that I will use my experience as a sort of baseline for you to understand my argument, but I will never preach to you that just because I've successfully navigated these waters, that you should do it too. The probability of that succeeding is nothing. So I would always advise the highest possible rate of success, and that's where my standpoint is. Regardless of whether I am or am not in that area or arena, the best possible course of action will always be my advice. So yeah, thankful to be a part of a great panel, and well, thank you for having me on, even though we trigger a lot of people through the podcast.
No worries, man. This is when I miss my sound effects, my triggering sounds. No worries. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I see everybody on the live chat. Thank you so much for tuning in. Get that live chat going, and don't forget, I just pinned the public link on the YouTube live chat, so that way you guys, if you guys want to be part of the conversation, you can also just click on it and be able to jump on throughout the show. But nevertheless, let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. So you guys already know the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. Do good men want to raise another man's kids? But before we go right into that topic, I do want to discuss something that's been trending on social media, if you haven't been living under the rock. But obviously, that I think this is a very important topic that we want to bring up real quick to highlight. And I want to bring up the Chris Rock, Will Smith slap that happened at the Oscars real quick. So just in case for everybody out there that live in the cave, I'm gonna play the video real quick, just so that way you got some context of knowing what we're gonna talk about tonight real quick. We're just gonna react to it and give our thoughts, have a quick discussion before we go right into our main topic that we're going to discuss tonight. But I do want to talk about something that's trending because that's what everybody's talking about. So I wanted to make some time for it real quick on my show. So let me play that video real quick. Everybody out there, share the screen. Okay. Chrome tab. All right. Can you guys see it?
Oh yeah.
You can see it?
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, no worries. All right, so if you haven't seen this video, if you're not aware that this is something that's been going on social media or how happened, I just want to let you guys be able to watch the video before we go right into it and share our reactions real quick.
I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. that was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude. It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
I'm going to, okay?
All right. All right, so yeah, so obviously, let me go back. All right. All right, so yeah, so let me open up for you guys real quick. What was your initial reaction when you first saw this? Obviously, a lot of people are debating whether it's fake or real, but but we don't know for sure. But let's debate it on the point that it is real. But yeah, what was your initial reaction when you saw this? I'll start with you, Tui. Tui, what was your thoughts when you first saw this, and what was your initial reaction of how you felt and what you thought when you saw this? What happened at the Oscars between Will Smith and Chris Rock?
I thought he slapped Chris Rock, but not that August guy. Seriously, like I thought it was stupid. Like when he did that, I was like, the only thing I thought was that was the stupidest shit I've ever seen. Like, who like Chris Rock out of all the comedians? I don't know. I thought it was stupid, and I thought it was stupid he did it at the Oscars. But I'm sure the TV ratings were great. I just thought it was stupid.
Okay. All right. No worries. All right. Thank you, Tui. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, the TV ratings definitely did go up, and so I think the Oscars. I know that's the debate for everybody out there right now. I'm gonna pass it on to Natasha. Hello. I'm gonna come back to you, Natasha. I'll give you a quick introduction. Thank you for joining on. Let me pass it to the fellas real quick. Devil's Advocate. What was your thoughts? Initial reaction when you first saw it?
Well. I guess Will's got a little pocket in him after all. That was my first thought. I thought it was a coward move, and if I were to just like look at this situation with a bird's eye view, I would see, I guess metaphorically, I would see, if you guys know it, like is it a ventriloquist or Pinocchio? I would picture Jada holding strings and controlling Will like Pinocchio, like, because Will has so many aspects of his life he has outcompeted. Like he's a one in, not one in a million, but he's one in like 100 million actor. He's a legend. And I want to say he's a good dad because he's like I never really had a dad, but like I think he gives his kids a little bit too much freedom, and his mom and Jada controls his family, but like in his presence and his investment in his family, he's a good dad. I think every aspect of his life he's done really well. I think the one mistake that he made that's been manifesting over the past few years is he chose the wrong woman to marry. And we can get into like the alpha widow effect and the whole I don't know if I would call Jada a hoe, but like turning that type of person into a housewife and getting embarrassed, like it all ties together. So if you just look at this, you can't just analyze this event without taking into account what's happened over the past few years. Does that justify his action? Absolutely not. But it makes it make a lot more sense, because I bet if he was married to a more conservative woman, or woman that at least respected him more in the way she acted and conducted herself in public and talked about their relationship, a man of his stature would never have risked his entire, career and future
Yeah.
over a joke that wasn't even that bad. Let's be honest, he could have said a lot worse before and after the slap, and he didn't. So I think Chris is a bigger man than me and than most people who would be put in that situation, because he exhibited an extraordinary amount of self-control and integrity. So while Will kind of caused the Black community to take a hit, Chris made up for it a little bit with the integrity and self-restraint that he showed,
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say about that.
No worries. Yeah, thank you so much, Devil's Advocate. Yeah, shout out to Chris Rock, because if he would have responded aggressively, that would have, and that show probably would, I don't know where that show would have gone, and it ended up becoming. So
The old I'm gonna feel that till August. That's all it would have taken. Then what's we're gonna do? Go back up there?
Yeah, and exactly. I agreed with Tui, right? Like, I didn't. Why, you didn't show any physical aggression towards August, the guy that slept with that your wife cheated with. But you showed physical aggression to a comedian who said a very mild joke. So yeah, but yeah, I'll pass it on to Daniela. Daniela, what was your thoughts on your reaction when you first saw that video?
Initial thought when I saw the video was I was confused, really. I didn't understand what was the context, what happened prior to that. I got a snippet of him getting slapped. Well, Chris Rock getting slapped. So that's all I got initially. So a couple of questions was running through my mind. What's happening? Is this, a play for, the Oscars to get their rating up? Then I'd done a little bit more, dig into it and realized the whole context of Chris said made a joke about G.I. Jane. Will laughed initially, and for some reason, not even a minute after that, he got up and slapped him. So the following things after that, in my own mind, I went and did a bit of research on Will. I've heard he released a memoir and whatnot, and from that book that he's written, it really truly shows that this man is struggling. Will Smith is struggling. And the bravado, the public bravado that he is trying to maintain is crumbling underneath him. There's many things that has contributed to that. One of the main things that majority of people who has followed Will for his entire career is his Red Table episode, right? So what we've seen, or what I've seen from that video, is essentially the final straw that broke the camel's back, in the sense that Will has maintained a facade for so much and for so long, and the Red Table sort of revealed that he has no control over his own household. That whole thing shouldn't have aired, and he should have been the one to have stopped it from even becoming a public episode. Not only that, the follow-up to that, and then eventually, someone's made a light-hearted joke, which is their job as a comedian to do. And if you watch the Oscars, like, many people have come out and said, the people that are nominees are always made fun of. And it's either directly at them or the people they've come to the show with. They're all public figure. You are fair game. So if that has taken Will to be pushed over the edge, he needs more help than anything. But in general, it brings to a much more deeper topic, and that is, this is why we preach, or we don't, well, not preach, but this is why we talk about vulnerability in men, and why it's very dangerous for men who do not control that.
Thanks.
And turn that around. It just completely being vulnerable. This is the danger of that. He came out and was vulnerable in public. He was made fun of. He is trying to sort of scratch back whatever reputation that he has in the public eye, and he's just managed to kill all of that. And I know there are, as much as there are people arguing against, there are people arguing for him. You know, he's protecting his wife, blah, blah. No, he is not. If he was protecting his wife, he wouldn't have aired that episode. He would have dealt with it in private, and that would have been the end of it. And the prime example of that is Jay-Z and Beyonce. When the whole media found out that Jay-Z, wasn't a faithful husband, what did they do? They dealt with it in public, released some PR statement that didn't even go into detail at all. And that was it. People forgot straight away. But the red table just, yeah. So Will's a dick. He knows he's a dick, and he hasn't dealt with a lot of shit. And he just happened to do the one thing that he shouldn't have done. So there's my opinion.
All right, yeah, no worries. All right, thank you, Danielle, for sharing it. Yeah, for me, I think I'll pass it on to Natasha, but what was kind of baffling for me was when I saw the reaction of most people in America on social media. So many people were trying to defend Will Smith's actions. That he put his hand on another man, and it's just crazy how we live in a society right now where a lot of people think that what he did is justified. It's just that was one thing I just noticed. It's kind of crazy right now, just to see how society's turned out today.
I think
I'll
people
pass it
like
up.
act like people like women mostly. I think like the fact that he defended his wife, but it was just over a joke that wasn't even that funny. But like I think mostly people were like, "Oh yeah, you should defend your woman." I think that's where people were coming from, not that.
That's a great point to add to that. Like I think that, and sorry, before we move to Natasha.
Yeah. No worries. Go ahead.
I think that that the more self-centered people, and in this case it would be women, ask themselves where they would insert themselves into that scenario and what they would want like their man to do, and it's beyond comprehension how greedy and like selfish that is. To the thing in subconsciously, I want to live in a world where I can feel discomfort and have my man go assault someone because someone hurt my feelings. Whereas the adult thing to do would be to deal with the emotion, let that person make themselves look bad by making a joke in bad taste, and be the bigger person, call them out publicly or privately in a cordial, like controlled manner. But the women that want their men to be their little toy soldiers and sacrifice their future for a minor transgression, I think those are the ones you need to stay away from.
Yeah, I'm I'm still baffled by why he slapped him at all over the joke that wasn't funny. But like that, when I think of like all the women who are like, oh yeah, I would hope that my man would defend me like that, and I'm like, but in like an actual dangerous situation, yes, I would hope that my man would defend me, but not at a joke that wasn't funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just
You know how Will could have redeemed himself? He is a comedian, right? If that was happening, if I was in Will's shoes and the joke was made, I would have heckled the shit out of Chris. And the first thing that would fly out of my mouth would have been, and this is why everybody hates Chris. That would have been a far more better response. And that would have been, to the play of the comedic whatever nuance that there is between Chris and Will. That would have been cool. Okay, you made fun of my wife, I made fun of you. Cool, let's carry on. But to laugh at a lighthearted joke, regardless of whatever it is, and then to feel that after that your wife has disapproved of the joke and have this emotional outburst to defend her, dude, you lost that battle way before Chris even made that joke, even before that moment. So you getting up to exercise your manlyhood in defending your woman, you've lost that battle a long time ago and you know it. So, yeah.
All right, no worries. Yeah, to everybody, thank you so much for sharing all my panel of guests. I see a lot of people sharing their thoughts real quick. I want to read out a couple real quick. So Fatty said, that was not about his wife. That was about his ego and getting his balls back. Okay. Thank you, Fatty, for dropping that. Basi said, it makes sense why he slapped. He's showing everyone how fragile his relationship with his wife is. And I think Underground Rose said, uh, alopecia. They have blown her alopecia out of proportion. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Everybody on the live chat, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Always appreciate your feedback. What you guys think? Um, I, I think just to respond to, I think somebody said, I don't know, it was Daniela or Devil's Advocate, about, a lot of people were saying that her wife defended his honor, right? But I think it's really, really important, even for the women out there, like context matters, and also be like, if there's a situation that you feel like your honor is is broken, or you feel like that you're upset as a woman, you have to understand the context of the situation to make sure that if you're a man, you don't want to put your man in harm, right? So like they knew they were in the Oscars. It was a world. It was one of the biggest shows. It's a broadcast worldwide. Like for her not to think that if she sends her man out there to go defend her honor, not caring about the repercussions, the consequences, that this could destroy his career, his image, and she probably knew that. Whether she thought about it in the moment, but and still send him out. I think for a lot of women, that's a very toxic woman to know that, to put him in a situation to defend her honor, knowing the repercussions and not caring about the repercussions, how it's going to affect him, because all she's worried about how she feels. I think that's something that I thought about also. Is like, well, because you can tell in the beginning the joke, she Will laughed. If you guys watch the replay, he laughed at the joke. He turned to Jada. Jada, of course, felt some type of way, and then he reacted to it. Um, but I just feel like that even if you want to, as a woman, if you feel some type of way and you want your man to defend you, just think about the harm. If you do going to send your man out there, you have to think about his situation and how it's going to affect him as one, and don't just think about your feelings as a woman, because he's going to be the one that's going to be affected, not you. It's just amazing. Go ahead, Daniela, you have something to say?
I'm just going to add on. It's your job as a man to realize when you're emotional.
Yeah.
Your wife will not check you. Women are emotional, and that's their prerogative. It's for us male. As a man, you should know when is the right time, the right environment it is to defend your woman. And if you know how to control your emotion in a way where you know how to channel it properly, you would know where those incidents are. That display by Will means that he has no fucking clue where his emotions are, and his wife runs the show. That's all it is. So I get where you're coming from, Will, but at the same time, women will react. Where it's your job as a man to take it in, process the information. Is it the right time? What's the right course of action? And then deal with it accordingly.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you. All I'm saying is, I think something that Devil Advocate said, like, that's what happens when you pick the wrong woman. Because if you pick a good woman, like a good woman would think about, should be aware or conscious about those type of things. But obviously, Jada just cares about how she feels. All right, no worries. Let us know. I see everybody in the live chat. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna pass it on to Natasha. Natasha, what was your reaction about the whole Chris Rock and Will Smith situation?
So I am not really someone that's like into like Oscar shows and stuff. So I caught it after it happened. So I got to really watch like the replays of his behavior. And one, I very much was on the boat of like seeing it happen. My first thought is Jada ain't shit. And I would have not, just the fact that she allowed him to do that. Because my thing is that to touch on this whole discussion of honor should be a two-way street. That should never be something that's gender specific or femininity versus masculinity. As a woman, you are just as responsible to protect your man's honor. And I just feel like in that case, she absolutely did not. But I think further beyond that, in watching him take the seat and like adjust his jacket, the hurt and emptiness in his eyes completely like sat with me, right? Because it's everything about the fact that I think, and this is going to be funny, how Fatty talked about how like,
just about how, like, for her, it wasn't anything about him protecting her. It was trying to regain his balls and regain his, like, his masculinity. And for me, it's like, the other thing that I noticed, because I obviously was checking out the post knowing that we were going to talk about this today, they took pictures prior to the ceremony or the awards show, whatever, and she still doesn't wear a ring. So my thing is that if you are going to take the step forward to rekindle or rebuild your relationship, following the fact that you publicly, internationally scrutinize this man, then do him a solid and do your part, the little things like wear the ring, because women are so fixated on like, oh, men need to do the little things for me. But no, sis, that's got to be reciprocated. In order for the man to be more inclined to do the little things for you, you have to pay that back. And I think that's where in this whole modern day woman, modern day society, it's messed up, because there is this stigma that women don't got to do nothing. And I'm not saying like don't be strong in your own opinion, but like know when it's time for you to like be a female. And like when you're in a relationship, your circumstances are very different in terms of how you live, how you act, how you carry yourself, and even just the level of like of femininity that you're supposed to have. You know, I very much felt for him, because honestly, for me personally, like Will Smith has always been one of my like favorite actors, like up there with Denzel Washington. Is like how much I admire, and I've always loved his work. And seeing that happen pained me more than like, because I've seen women post about like, yeah, that's right. Like, no, sis, Jada done put him out, because now his entire career is completely annihilated. You know, now it's like no one wants to co-sign against him. I mean, and it's like, then I've also seen, you know, these, because friends that I've been reading their posts and stories on like Black excellence and how everyone wants to always talk about, oh, protecting the Black woman. And now that he's done it, everyone wants to shame him. Well, it's a two-way street, because at the same time, as much as he's, you know, gunning and trying to regain his masculinity in his relationship, the fact that you could clearly see that, I mean, she controls the whole narrative. There's really no winning for him ever. Like, even I went today and like took a look at his Instagram, and it's almost this like weird like midlife crisis of like he's trying to do like trending transitional posts, and he's trying to dress different. And for me, it's one of those things where it's like, dude, if you knew your worth and you really understood the amount of work and commitment that you've put into this community of what you do with acting and producing, directing, whatever, ain't nobody will be able to tell you shit. And that only is not happening because he doesn't have a woman behind him to build him up and edify him. And that's where I feel like women, where modern day women lack, where they just kind of feel like, well, I don't need to build him up. How do you expect him to be a good, you know, man if you're not sitting there building him up or setting him up for success, for that matter? So I think that some people, I mean, I'm compassionate towards him in that sense, but then at the same time, it's like I feel bad for him, you know, because he's got no one there to like build him up, you know. And it's like, as a dad, I agree. I think Devil's Advocate made a comment about how, you know, he's allowed his kids to live freely. I'm all for self-expression. I'm all for like being your own self, but like kids and future generations can't be successful if there are not the proper role models in line to set them up for that, you know. And as parents, it's like, I get it. Like, I'm not a parent, but like I am a very hands-on auntie mom, and I know what it means to remember that everything that I say, I do, and everything that I express, they one day will emulate it, you know, especially my niece. Like if she sees me acting out a lot, I mean, I'm very outspoken, for those of you that know this about me. And she, 4 years old, tries to run her older brothers like she's the oldest. And, you know, in encouraging that, at the same time teaching her that it's okay to draw back and like be the little girl princess that you are. Like, cool, let's get your hands dirty, but like at the same time, remember your femininity. That's very important to me. So anyways, that's my 2 cents, or 10 cents, I guess, for that matter. But
all right, no worries. Anybody else want to add on to that?
Yeah. What do you guys think about this you think it's a double standard when men lose they have like a mental break versus women who have a mental break in the public eye, or I don't know. Like, do you think there's a standard, like if a man has a mental breakdown versus a woman a mental breakdown in public?
I was going to add on to... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to add on to what you said, Natasha, and that is a good segue, actually, to the mental breaks, because Will mentioned what I had said earlier. I wanted to clarify. So I think without Jada's bad behavior, Will could have handled that joke and 100 times worse, and everybody knows that. With her bad behavior and without the joke, it was still only a matter of time before he broke, and God knows where and when it would have been, because he was in a compromised mental state, because it's not healthy, you know, of the hundreds of things I'm sure she's done, public and private, like, you know, to be like just having your face like filled with joy and reminiscence, talking about an affair you had in front of your husband and calling it an entanglement and downplaying it like it wasn't bad. Like that's gonna F with a guy or a girl mentally, you know? So that's the distinction that I wanted to make. And that's a good segue to the mental break that that Tui was mentioning. So if you guys wanted to, Natasha, you wanted to respond to Tui.
Yeah, so I definitely do think that there is a double standard. I feel like with women, like when mental breaks or midlife crisis happens, they're like praised, and it's like, yeah, how Stella got her groove back, right? There's a whole movie about it. But then you have people like Tyrese, who was on, who like publicly displayed himself about his breakdown of not seeing his daughter for 2 years, became a meme. You have Kanye, who's had issues and he's like outwardly done it. He's a meme. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I feel like men are scrutinized and their masculinity is questioned, and it's completely, I mean, defaced and defamed in this public eye. And I think that that's not okay. And again, that's another stigma, like with society, that this is why I don't really have friends, y'all, because I don't agree with how a lot of things happen in life. But yeah, I think that it is very much an unfortunate double standard that a lot of women don't want to talk about. You know, and oh no, it's but it's like not like, sis, like you stand over here talking about don't cheat, don't be this, be loyal, be this, blah, blah. But then you think that it's cool for you to like step out when you're 50 because you're having a midlife crisis. Like, get out of here with that. That's a mess. That's sloppy. You know, and it's like that, it's the women like that make women like me look bad, because these statistics that speak for a majority of women in this day and age, if we break down the demographics, Pacific Islanders, we're like maybe 1%. But my 1% is spoken for. Exactly, right? That's what I'm saying, sis. You feel me? Where our little, not even 1%, we're categorized, and there's a stigma laid on our shoulders because of this other, you know, 75, 45, whatever. And so that's why for me, it's like I'm very outwardly unapologetic about the fact that I'm very capable of being feminine for my man when that's a necessity, but I will equally hold my own ground because I refuse to be told that I'm like Karen when I'm not. So
I have another question. So with media, obviously media controls a lot of opinions and like reactions that we do have to certain things, like the mental breakdown of a man or a woman in the public eye. But what do you guys think we can do as individuals to stop perpetuating that type of behaviors, that type of cycle? So like,
before anybody answers that, I just want to respond to what Tui said, the double standard between men and women, why women it's okay for a woman to be emotional, expressive, and break down, and why it's not okay for a man. I think for me, I think it is necessary that we should have that double standard does exist, and there is shame amongst men who lack self-control and don't know how to control their emotions, because biologically we are the bigger, stronger sex. You don't want the men in this society to be out of control and running around like with no self-control. That is going to be very chaotic. You want the men in this society to be able to be in self-control, because like I said, when a man is in this most vulnerable state and mentally fragile and broken down, you don't know what he's going to do. For some men, they might just cry. But there's some men like Will Smith, he jumps on, he just actually irrationally slaps a guy for just telling a mild joke. That's the capability of what men can do if they lose control and they're broken down. And the slap was just a minor one. A guy could smash you, a guy could beat you up, a guy could kill you, right? So that is why it is necessary for other men to step up to be leaders and teach other young men, especially young boys, how to be strong, masculine men, to control their emotions and be handled in a healthy way. But I think that shame is necessary. You don't want men just walking around in that vulnerable state, because you have no idea what they're gonna do. And we have the physical attributes and the capabilities to put harm on people. So that is why we need to shame people like Will. That is not how man should act. That is a shameful act. He should not put hands on another man the way he responded. And I think that's something that we should have discussions among men. But I think that double standard should exist, and we don't want there's men in our society to act like Will, and that is going to be very chaotic and a bad look on society. And I don't want to live in that society, and especially for women. Do you want your men to walk around in that and act that way? And that was a against another man, but God forbid if you did that to another woman. And that's you're leaving that door open. If you want these men to be able to, if we want to accept that make that socially acceptable. So I just want to throw that out there because I think that double standard should exist because we don't want our men that way.
Daniela, did you have anything to add before I kind of double dip on this issue?
Yeah, it's also highlighting how important it is to surround yourself. As a man, you should be able to surround yourself, or you should seek out to surround yourself with other men who have the same or greater values than you. I heard somewhere around, along the grapevines, and even Will's speech after, Denzel said something to him along the lines of, when you're at your highest peak, that's when the devil will attack.
Yeah.
That to me is a weak advice for anyone who's going through that shit. Anyone that was close to Will should have said, dude, you fucked up. You need to publicly apologize right now when it's still fresh, and you need to go up and seek Chris's apologies, right? That to me is a group of male who has your best interest in mind. Leaving him to leave the Oscars and whatever it is and carry on and whatnot and release a public PR statement is stupid. But yeah, it's for us male, it's very important to surround ourselves with other good, strong men so that we can get ourselves checked. If you are hanging around a group of mates who always, your yes men, always hypes you up and whatnot, you have to be very, very wary of what their intentions are. The person that is coming to you when you fucked up and go, hey, dude, you shouldn't have done that, but here are things that we can do to move forward from it. Those are the type of people you want to surround yourself with. And it's much more important for us as men to be surrounded by people like that. There was a couple of other things I wanted to add on, but my mind's starting to drift.
All right, no worries.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Devils.
Yeah, I do think these mental breaks are only going to become more and more common as the further we drift away from. Honestly, I'm torn between saying tradition and like human nature. I'm not sure. That's the kind of a thought that I'm still forming. Like I'm kind of wanted to float the theory that because tradition, like religion, for example, whether it was formed by a deity or humans, we can agree that it was made to control the darker sides of human impulse, right? Whether it's male aggression, female vanity, we wouldn't want the most powerful people just running around taking from each other. But the further, if you look at modern social norms, like political correctness, I want to say female sexual promiscuity, the whole sexual empowerment, body positivity movement. I think it's interesting that in modern Western societies, women have the things that they've demanded for hundreds of years, right? But the depression rates and the depression and anxiety rates in women, suicide attempt rates, all they've done has gone up. And it's not just women that are getting more of what they want. Obviously, men, especially the top percentage of men, the most attractive men are having access to more women than ever. Women are having more access to men than ever. So you think we'd all be happy, right? But if you look at all these mental health issues that we're having, why? That's one question we could ask. Because Jada's kind of an embodiment of all this freedom that women have. She has the, 1 in 100 million actor, all the more money than she can imagine. He's pretty much just a loaded gun, that she carries around and can point at people, apparently, people that make her uncomfortable. And if there was no rule of law, I think that's the way that our society's headed, is if single motherhood just keeps increasing at the rate that it is, they're going to raise men to just it's going to be an emotion-based law and order society, you know, where if a sister, a mother, girlfriend is offended, then that man's going to jail, and someone might end up killed or hurt or assaulted. And that's not a direction that we want to go as a society. So like I said, we need to bring back shame. Will needs to, I feel like he's scared to make his wife uncomfortable because of the power she has over him, because of the modern society we live in. And that's how you grow, whether it's a coach making you uncomfortable, your parents making you uncomfortable, your husband making you uncomfortable. Like, that's how you grow. And I just feel like some people have so much power that when someone tries to make them grow and make them feel uncomfortable, they just remove them from their life. Like, imagine Jada dating a guy and he said, I'm not going to stand for that. You know, like, I'm not going to do that. If he made you feel uncomfortable, I'll go talk to him about it. But I'm not going to, you know, walk up on stage and assault. Some women would break up for their men, but break up with their men for not doing as their bidding. So what do you guys think of that? I kind of made a few points there, but like, modern society training men to kind of be toy soldiers, and like, you know, in this social environment, you feel a little bit of discomfort, you can just go on to the next one because you have thousands of options.
All right. Yeah. What do you guys think, ladies?
I'm going to go back to, like, I mean, hold on. I'm going to go back to what do we do about it, though? Because, you know what? Hold on. Natasha, you go, because I need to rethink this.
All right. No worries. We'll come back to you too. Go ahead, Natasha.
I definitely do agree in terms of like men, like the whole like emotional piece. So I for me believe that men should be, I feel like it should be normalized to an extent that men are allowed to be emotional and like vulnerable. I feel like there needs to be a culture around that, because I feel like there's not. But at the same time, when you say it in a sense of like modern day setting up men to be like toy soldiers, like that makes, I receive that. Where it's like, because at the end of the day, and this is where I think most men are just like, oh, you know, women say they want this, but then you want that. Like, I very much am an advocate for my man being vulnerable and feeling okay with like, because he's conditioned that it's like a sign of weakness to be emotional, to cry in front of me. Like there's things that are not normalized. And even with like my brothers and stuff. So for me, I think that there should be a degree of it being acceptable for a man to be emotional. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like if we're going to talk specifically about this whole thing with Will, like I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I just think that it's not, I don't think it's okay. Like society has created this stigma where it's not okay for men to be emotionally available or emotional around, and I think that that's not okay. And then me personally, like, I don't think that it makes a man less masculine or less capable of like holding his ground if he is being even a little bit emotionally available.
Yeah, Will and Danielle, I was going to add to that and ask you guys what you think of, because I think that's what happens when a man is too vulnerable. You could go the route of, well, he chose the wrong woman, or you could say that if Will was more of a man's man or whatever, you know, could he have held Jada in her place? Maybe. We don't know if she would have stayed with Tupac. Maybe she would have caused the same problems with him. It could be her, you know, but we'll never know that, obviously. But like, so what do you guys think about? I agree to an extent, but I think, I think men are more vulnerable today than ever.
100% agree to that.
And I still see women consolidating on the most masculine men, in my opinion.
What, Danielle?
Men have always been vulnerable. That's my take, right? Men have always been vulnerable, and that's where our instinct are built on. We have to be emotionally connected, I would say, to certain things around our surroundings. But what we're seeing is that vulnerability is now freely displayed. Here's a nice and easy question. What happens when you cry? What is the feeling that you go through after you cry? Oftentimes when you cry about certain things in your life, it becomes self-evident that you are somewhat right, because that's what crying does to a person. You know, it releases certain hormones in you, makes you feel good, and then you start justifying what it is that you're going through and that it is not your fault. This is why it's dangerous for us men to be vulnerable in that sense. Why? Because we don't get to analyze the situation, the event, for what it truly is. We break down, we cry, we feel good, then we justify. We don't justify, we analyze, and we pick apart why it is that I reacted the way that I am, why it is that I am in a certain situation, what can I do? I don't advocate for never crying. I advocate for using crying as your last tool before if you come to a complete dead end on the road, you've tried everything that you possibly could, you reach into your tool belt of whatever it is that you use for your mental health, and you just can't figure it out. Find a dark corner, get in your car, have a cry, reset, come back to it, reanalyze. But when we talk about vulnerability, sorry, advocate, I'm sort of going to Natasha's point. When we preach that vulnerability and men crying, is a way of letting go of certain pressures that life, society brings in general, to me, it's very dangerous. And you can justify that by just analyzing the way you feel after you cry. For a man to go through that as a regular occurrence, we will start justifying the shitty behavior, the things that we shouldn't be doing, and then blaming everyone else. Okay, I wouldn't be in this situation if my ex-girlfriend did this. I'm a great guy. I shouldn't have gone through this. That's dangerous for us male. It's very dangerous. We have to be brutally honest with ourselves. Pardon me. And that's why I don't advocate for it. So I thought to drop that in. Sorry, guys. My voice just ran away with me for some reason.
No worries. Yeah, to respond to Devil's Advocate, his question about vulnerability. I think you made a good point, Devil's Advocate, that you said that even with the society that we are now, it's very equal, and men are more feminine, more submissive, or it's more socially okay for guys to go opposite of masculinity. But the women still prefer masculine men, even to this day in modern society. I think Natasha said, you guys prefer your men to be vulnerable and to be emotional. In my experience is talking to women and actually listening to what they say, because I do other podcasts with women and we talk about what they want out of men. I don't think women really want their men vulnerable. I think what women want is a man that me and Danielle have talked about this. What women want, they want a man to effectively communicate his emotions but not vulnerability. There's a difference between effectively communicating your emotions to a woman, because that's what women want, but instead of being vulnerable. And I think that's what women want, because at the end of the day, women still want the strong masculine men. And like Daniela said, like being vulnerable and having a mental breakdown and crying, that's natural for all men. But like I told you, I believe that it's not, as far as like our biological roles and what's expected out of us as men, to handle our responsibility of what we provide for our family and also what we provide for our society. As the providers, protectors, being vulnerable doesn't serve us, doesn't help us fulfill our roles. So I think as men, that what Daniela said, that we need to learn how to be able to control those emotions, so that way we can be more effective men, so we can handle our responsibilities, because we are seen as the providers, protectors. We are seen as the rock within the family. And like I told you guys before, like if the men are in that state, it's very dangerous for us to be in that state. So we can't stay in that state for too long, even though we all end up being in that state. We all break down, we all cry, but we can't stay there because it's very dangerous. We don't want men in that state because of the capabilities of what we can do, especially towards women and children. So we want men to be in control and to be disciplined and to be great leaders. I think I was watching this podcast. I forgot what it was. They were talking about masculinity, and they were talking about, men being emotional. I think he said a very great point. If you want your men to be emotional, a man must first learn how to be strong so he can learn how to be soft. He cannot learn how to be strong by being soft first. Yeah. If that makes sense. So like,
no, that does.
If you ever noticed, UFC fighters, guys who are very massive, very strong, those guys are, the alpha types. You ever notice that those guys have very gentle personalities? The biggest guys you ever meet in the weight room, even when you talk to like soldiers or people who've done types of men who've seen combat, they're very gentle. They're very nice people because they're very strong in their masculinity. They're so confident in their strength that they're open to be vulnerable. That they're open to be gentle and be more to let up their softer side. And I think for as men, like if women, if that's what you guys want out of men to show more of that, I think for men, it's first that we have to learn how to be strong so we can bring out that side, but going the reverse and making them more feminine and more emotional and hoping that you want that softer side. I don't think that does any service for him. I don't think that does any service for you as well, and also societies as well. So I think for women, just want men to effectively communicate. And I think it's a serious risk for men to be able to be vulnerable, even though it's we all go through it. I've gone through my mental breakdown size, and I've gone through that shit. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, like that crying and talking about my emotions did nothing to better my life and to help me as a man.
Because I have a question then.
Nothing at all.
Regarding that. So I think for me, like my biggest thing as far as like when I think about what I bring to the table of a relationship, when I think about my man, like Daniela said, like taking a drive and crying by yourself, like I respect that because I'm very much a me time person myself. But as a woman, I would feel inadequate knowing that like my man felt the need to like take off and like do his own thing. So like for me and other women like me out there that will watch this and listen, how do you guys advise us to make sure that like we're doing our part? Because for me, what domino effects from there is okay if he's gonna go off on, and obviously with respecting that personal space that he'll need and allowing him to like you said, Will, to build his being strong so he can be soft, because I very much need that and appreciate that information, like an encouragement. But how is it like, how else do we support that? Because I would never want it to be, I would never want to be with a man that always had to feel like he had to handle shit on his own. Like, I want to be your rock as much as you are supposed to be mine. So like, as you know, in seeking advice from men, how is it that you guys would advise, say, your sisters or your nieces that were saying, how do I be a better woman to better serve my men entirely? Because I'm someone and where I firmly believe that, complete full circle relationship success isn't just based on the physicalities and it isn't just based on the intellect, but if there's no in order to form compassion, and I feel like there has to be emotion involved. So like, do we just let y'all figure it out and then when y'all ready, or, how, like, is it, I just I never want to come off as like neglective, I guess is what it is. So in trying to understand, and I think that also by default answers to his question, where like moving forward, how do we bring these numbers down, and how do we rebuild, men in the light that they're supposed to be, as opposed to where we are now in society?
I have a personal tool. Sorry to cut on. I have a personal tool that I've done over the years, and I've also advised a lot of people to do. A lot of men to do, which the feedback has always been positive. The morning, the time you get into your car to drive to work, and the time you get in your car to drive home, that is your absolute me time as a man. If you feel like that you have not dealt with whatever it is that you're going through, you need to learn a way to hang out your trauma, whatever it is that you're going through, at the door before you get into the house. And I think that's one of the things that me and my wife often speak about, is that she appreciates that when I walk through the door, regardless of whatever it is that's happening out in the real world, I'm back to dad, I'm back to husband, I'm back to partner. And whatever it is that has happened that day, that can wait till tomorrow morning. It's not as important as what it is that's right in front of me. And the reason why that happens is, the reason why I'm able to differentiate the two is because I have these things called anchors. You can have goals, but the best thing to add on to that, especially as a family man, is to have an anchor. What is your anchor? My children and my wife and my relationship with them is my anchor. So that when I come home, I am able to delay whatever it is that I'm going through until the next morning. And when I get in my car and scream at the top of my lung, scream at the bad driver next to me, or zen out and try and meditate in whatever form that may be, But those times for me is the tool that I need to be able to buffer. And oftentimes I would call my wife and talk shit. And that also helps me sort of regulate what it is that I'm going through. And she understands it now to the point where if I'm ringing you on my way home, I don't want you to fix my problem. I am talking shit for the pure fact that I want to hear myself be a little bitch about whatever it is that I've had that day. And also tell myself, you got to find a solution. Like, yes, you've had some disagreement, whatever it is that's happened today. You're a little bitch for acknowledging that it's affected you this much, but also it's time to recognize there are certain things that you can do about it. So when you get home, when you park that car on your driveway or whatever, you walk through that house, it's left inside the car. I'll pick it up tomorrow. I'll wear it tomorrow. So it's not so much on the women. It's more of us men. We need to add more tools to our toolbox so that we're not putting pressure on the woman that is deciding to sit at home and cater to whatever it is that we need as men, to put them under this pressure of they're inadequate. There are certain instances where that may be the conversation to be had, but it's your job to not make your wife, your children feel as if they are part of the problem that it is you're trying to solve out in the real world. Their job is to hold down the fort, become good, decent human beings with your guidance, and that's it. It's not their job to fix your problem. And a lot of people look at this with men's mentality and go, but that's too much pressure on males. Like, why can't they just, be vulnerable and share their problem with me? It's a strength that you need as a man, and it's a strength that your family have to rely on. I don't know who said it, but I've heard it on a podcast somewhere. I think it might be Fresh and Fit. A man should be the rock where the woman's emotion crashes into day in, day out. And you should be that anchor for her, because we all know men are, we all know women are emotional. That's their prerogative, and that's who they are biologically and being wise. So in order for us to take on that responsibility of having a family, you have to recognize what it is you have to do and do it to the best of your ability. And if it comes to a point where you have to go see a therapist or whatever it is, deal with your shit. Because there's a whole new world that comes with the family. This is why I praise women in the sense that they can hold down the fort at home. There is no way a man can create a home the same as a woman. That job's hard enough. I have a job as a man to become the anchor of this family and whatever it is that I have to do to be a leader. Leave my woman to deal with that. Leave my woman to deal with all of that shit. She's best at it. I take the back seat when it comes to that.
All right, no worries, man. Thank you,
Yeah.
Daniela, man. Everybody feeling you in
Sorry
the
for
live
ranting,
chat.
guys.
No worries. Everybody in the live chat, thank you so much. I see you guys popping in the live chat. If you guys love the content, man, love the discussions, man, support the channel, y'all. Press that like, subscribe button real quick. I don't see the likes matching the people that are viewing. There's a lot of people out there not liking the button, liking the video. So make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel if you love the content. We're dropping some bombs and dropping some great knowledge tonight. Thank you to all the guests. I'm going to pass it to Devil Advocate. Go ahead, Devil.
Wait.
Yeah.
Hold on. Before you do, can I ask a question? Sorry.
Let Devil finish, and then we'll come back
Okay.
to it.
Okay.
I got you too. I got you too.
Natasha, yeah, you had said something. Okay, you guys can hear me. I'm not muted. All right. You guys, I was going to say, right before Natasha asked that question, that women, most modern women, so don't think that I'm talking about you, Natasha, but most modern women that I've seen that outwardly express that they prefer vulnerable men. It's a way of, one, virtue signaling, because that's what is being pushed on us as men to be more vulnerable. But two, it also it can be a power play and a sign of their own masculinity to be attracted to traits like that. Because I don't think that masculinity is so, the society is so rife with masculinity that vulnerability is rare. I see a lot of guys who are too vulnerable and tell women too much about their shortcomings before they demonstrate strength and, ambition. So I would tread lightly, tread carefully when I would hear a woman say that, because odds are the women that say that do have more masculine traits than most. And that seems like something that like a Jada would say. And then Natasha, you seem far from a Jada, but like I'm talking in generalities here. Now to respond to what you said was, I would say to my whoever family member that's a female, I would say watch for signs of stress and or sadness and heal him with your femininity, because you're not his therapist, you're not his boss or his coach, whatever his profession is. But you know, as soon as he expresses vulnerability to you, like if he's a masculine man, and then one of the few times he does start to say things are falling apart at work or with a family member, someone he's close to, my advice would be the first person he goes to. Like, don't just say go get a therapist, you need a therapist, you know, because that's kind of cold. At least try and listen to him first, but recognize when he needs a professional. I think that's where we fall short in most communities, is you try and take that conversation too far and don't recognize, you know, maybe like you said, I think it might be natural for women to feel inadequate if he has to go to a therapist before you feel like, you know, when you feel like you could have helped more or something like that. So I understand that emotion completely. But I think that we need to recognize that you're not his therapist, his boss. So I think that when a man's super stressed out, the best thing you could do, I don't know if I'd tell my daughter this, but like I would appreciate, I don't want her to be like, what's wrong? And you can tell something's wrong, something wrong with work. Like I just would like to sit down, have some food, maybe a massage. I like a good massage. And depending on my mood, that's gonna immediately like take me from like a 8 to like probably a 4, as far as stress goes. And then if I feel like it's something that I want to get off my chest, I'll talk to you, you know, because you're my wife or my girlfriend or wherever we're at, you know, like if it's something that's not like super, super, super serious, or that I just talking about it will help me. You know how sometimes just talking about something, you might not get any feedback, but you might just from talking about it realize you're stupid for worrying about it, or there's still time to fix the problem. The world's not going to end. So I think taking like healing him with femininity versus grilling him and being frustrated that he's not telling you exactly what it is, you know, would be my advice.
You guys are the bomb. The answers were spot on, and I think that's exactly, even for me. There's obviously always space to grow, but I feel like as a woman to be able to receive that, because I think that, and this is based on the women that I was raised by, where they're all just do it all women. So it's like you just kind of become acclimated to like wanting to cover every base. Some people will call it control, some people say whatever, but really it's just us trying to make sure that every area of our life and everyone in our life is taken care of. So that when in the way that you guys say it, I openly like I've been taking notes. I take notes every podcast, but I have taken a good chunk of notes. So thank you to the both of you. Those were really amazing, great answers.
No worries.
Just
real
a little
quick.
add on before we move on.
Let me give a shout out real quick, Daniela. Catalina, thank you so much for the super chat donation. Much love to you, dropping the super chat donation on the channel. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But yeah, go ahead, Daniela. Go ahead.
Just an add-on, in a relationship, you have to understand you cannot solve the other. This is talking about, you know, between a man and a woman. You have to understand that you will never bring the right solution to the other gender. You will never truly understand genuinely what their problem is and how to fix them. You can only add value to it. Most men adding value to a woman's issue is to accept, listen, and acknowledge. You know, and women feel that, okay, for some reason he's listening to me and shit, I think I'm a little bit easier today. For us men, it's just leave us alone for now. We're working it out. We're buffering in our head. We're troubleshooting, whatever it is. If I feel like, I can't figure this out, then I'll tag you in. But what I'm looking for is whatever it is that I'm talking to you about is resonating and it's bouncing back on me. So what Devil's talking about in the sense of, you know, we tend to conflate and misconstrue the notion that just because I'm your partner and I know you like nobody else, I can fix your problem. No. Me as a man can never understand what the fuck it is that my woman is going through, vice versa. But I can only add value to her by doing what it is that she needs at the time. Given that the problem of the issue is a genuine one that is affecting her on some type of way. So that's one thing that I wanted to put out there. In a relationship, please understand. The opposite sex, you can never truly understand the problem, but you can add some value. Here's some free game. When women talk about vulnerability, there's two types of vulnerability that they mistake one for the other. The vulnerability of, I've got some trauma, I'm so hurt, it's painful, cry, cry, cry. Whereas, say you're in a situation, hypothetically, you're dating this guy, you want him to be vulnerable, and he sits here and go, man, I had this really, really great relationship prior. She was so great, but she ended up cheating on me. And you know what? I think somewhere along those years of being with her, I lost touch of who I was, what I attracted from her. And yeah, I think I lost touch of who I am, and I think those qualities, I'm working on them, and I'm getting better at them. I think that's the vulnerability most women want, but they're confusing it about the guy who's crying about whatever it is affecting him. The second example is a guy that is communicating to you effectively what his flaws are, but also acknowledging that he knows what the fuck they are, and there's no way in hell you, the other person whose this information is revealed to, can use that against him. That to me is strength, effective communication, and emotional intelligence. It's not vulnerability, but I think most women confuse the two. And when we argue against it and we're saying, you want number two, that's not vulnerability, they go back and, no, I want someone to be emotional with me and cry and whatnot. But think about that situation, how you would handle it in a conversation. And it will make, I hope it makes my perspective on this a little bit clearer on what vulnerability is and what it is that we men should be doing.
All right, no worries. Thank you. Tui, I know you had a question that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, it's for Taniela. So back to your relationship and how you find an anchor. It's control, right? Like you control your emotions. But like, where did you learn to do that? Did you teach yourself? Did you learn from your parents?
A couple of factors contributed to it. My dad, who adopted me, taught me a lot of great things, and this is why I always speak to Will when we bring up, tradition and whatnot, breaking out the cycle, whatever. I learned from my father, not by sitting down with him and listening to him teach me, okay, son, this is what you need to do as a man. You need to control your emotion. Watching my dad as I grew up as a young boy showed me what those lessons were. Never got out of control. Always was the leader that was respected in the household. My mother knew exactly what she needed to do, same as him. When he came home from work, whatever it is, he had a cooked meal ready for him. She would strip the shoes off his feet, socks off his feet, get him to lay up on whatever little couch that we had back in the islands, and let him be. Watching that made me baseline a lot of my relationship, and not only that, baseline who I wanted to be. Of course, as a kid, that's not the first thing that's in your mind. The first thing that's in your head is like, fuck you, Dad, you don't understand, what I'm going through as a kid. But the older I grew and the relationship that I've had with many different people, I've learned one by one what those qualities were and why they were important. The reason why this is such a great topic, both of them, the Will situation and do good strong men prefer single mothers, that I've gone through those experiences and I've come out of them blaming myself to an extent, in the sense that you wanted to be the man, but you didn't have the man quality or whatever it is. As simple as I can put it. For example, I was in a relationship, long-term relationship with a girl. We hit our break. She decided to go out and explore the world, And unfortunately, that world was another man's dick. And I chose to come back to her. And that relationship was so toxic. I became the villain for some reason of the story. And when I came out of that relationship, I had to reanalyze what it is that I was doing, what I contributed to that relationship. And even though, we can say, okay, she's a hoe, whatever, but I bring it back to me. It was my fault for not setting boundaries in the first place. It was my fault to put myself in that situation where we went on a break and I returned to something that wasn't serving me as a man, that I couldn't fully display who I was. And not just that, I say this a lot of time. I've been in construction where predominantly there are men there. And not only going through my own experience, I get to listen to other men describe and to walk through these circumstances. And by calling each other out, holding each other accountable, we get to learn off the experience that other people go through. This is sort of out of context, but there was a YouTuber who said, a guy making 100 mistakes by himself is different from two mates making 100 mistakes on their own and learning from each other. Because the guy with another mate making 100 different mistakes get to double up on experience alone. So that goes back to the earlier point. That is why it's crucially important for men to be, with other good men, because the mistake that we make as a collective all helps us build together as hopefully good men. So sorry if I'm just ranting and going on, but it's hard to pinpoint a certain experience, but I think overall it's accumulated to who I am. And not just that, shout out to my wife, her being a feminine woman's helped me grow into more of who I am as a man.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, when you shared that your relationship with that girl that you went back and it was toxic, that's, I think somebody mentioned on the live chat. It's pretty much what Will's doing. His wife stepped out, had sex with August Alsina, and then he stayed in it. And yeah.
And I'm willing to bet that Will is the villain in her story. I did what I had to do, but you're not letting go of it, as if Will's done the action, and that was a similar experience that I went through. I would go out and see a couple of mates and I was the one blamed. You're being unfaithful. You've gone over 5 minutes the time that you said you're going to be home, blah, blah. And I'm willing to bet that that's the situation he's going through. He's now been made the villain in his own relationship.
Yep, no worries. The panel guests, last final thoughts on the Will Chris Rock situation before we move on to the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. Last thoughts? Good? All right, good. Oh, Devil's Advocate, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'll just chime in. And I was watching a podcast earlier today. I think it's called Healthy Gamer GG. It's a psychiatrist that talks about modern problems relating to mental health, depression, but also like burnout. But he's really good talking about just about all the ills of modern society. And one of the points he made was that he was talking to a girl and he said her energy, there was like an Indian, like Hindu name for the energy she exhibits. And she always tries to make people happy around her. And a lot of that stems from how her parents were, how demanding her parents were of her, and how her mom always said that, like, she's doing, like, for example, I remember one example she uses. She had a friend over and her friend asked her to go down and make her friend some food. So she was downstairs making food for her guest, and she got yelled at for making food because her mom thought she was making food for herself. And so, like, two things were kind of wrong. For her friend to demand she go make food and then, like, be okay with her not making any for herself, or, like, and then also her mom yelling at her for being a giver and, like, how dare you, make food for yourself in your own house. But, like, I think Will Smith has that, like, giver energy. And when you have that, the psychiatrist made a good point that, like, people sense that energy and are drawn to you, good people and bad people. But at a disproportionately high rate, bad people, like takers, are going to stick. you know. So these people that emit that energy are gonna have like a lot of times they're gonna have a history of dating takers, and it's kind of sad. Like I'll have to think about that that scenario. Like the more I think about it, the more ways I realize that, like in her particular example, she was in a polyamorous relationship with a guy that's a very popular streamer, and she kept getting hurt by other girls that are coming in and out of his polyamorous relationship because the girls want monogamy with him. She's the ride or die girl that's okay with him being polyamorous, and these girls just keep trying to shut her out of the picture, and I think that's why maybe he keeps her around, you know. And they just aren't setting healthy boundaries. I think polyamorous relationships are very tricky, and you know, I'm not gonna go down that road. But he's not saying things like, "I need to be better at recognizing when girls are disrespecting you and cut them out." You know, if we're gonna go down that road. So I think Will has that energy, and he attracts people like Jada, and he needs to draw that line. And his children are grown. You know, like if I was in his position, that would be the one reason I might stay around, despite the advice of friends or family, is until the kids turn 18. They're grown. I don't know if they're 18 yet, but they're definitely grown, and he's gonna have to make a decision soon. Does he want to be with Jada for the rest of his life? Fortunately, as men, if Will wanted, he has the if he works on his mental health, he has the financial capacity to have another family if he wants to, a healthier one with a better partner, if that's the route he wants to go. So if I was his friend, I would remind him of that and say, you know, you either need to get the mental help you need and the tools to deal with someone like Jada and encourage her to get that kind of help, or you need to start over. You know,
Yeah.
If things keep going the way they're going, this is just going to happen again. Now the internet knows. They smelled blood. The memes, it's only the beginning.
Yeah.
They know what his Achilles heel is, you know. Not everyone's going to be as nice as Chris Rock was and not press charges and get the couple tens or hundreds of thousands he could have gotten.
Chris Rock actually apologized, didn't he?
I know he said publicly he wouldn't press charges. If he apologized, it's news to me, but maybe he did.
Yeah.
I think he did on the, like, when he was on stage, I think.
I thought he
yeah. I think he did. I think he did say it. A short apology.
Yeah.
No, he said,
worry.
okay, I won't, for sure. You know, like, okay, I won't, you know.
I would
he also was like,
thrown his ass in jail just to teach him a lesson.
Right. Oh man. And I, you know, I heard that they were friends, like being in the same industry, knowing of each other, and that each other make very good art would be enough for someone to make jokes and jest like that in a forum that's where you know it's going to happen, for me at least, you know. Like I think everything Chris did was within the bounds of like it being okay. To the very worst, it was a joke in bad taste, and Chris didn't know about her condition. But
yeah, no worries. No worries. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just to add on and to finish off that topic, you know, from I know we're holding Will responsible, and then the world is holding Will responsible, and I think that was I think it is our right to do so. I don't think this is the type of behavior that men should be acting. But when he reacted in the way he handled that, for me, when I saw it the way I reacted, I think for me it was just like that was the first time I got to saw the real Will Smith. Because I think all these years he's a good actor. Like you don't really know like the real version of himself, whether he's happy because he makes so much positive content, motivation. He's always happy on the red table talks. But I think that was the first time we really got to see that internally he's a broken down, emasculated, fragile man that's been going through so much issues with his relationship behind the scenes. And they try to portray this image that they're happy, but in reality, when I saw him react that way, I just saw a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, all the shit he's been put through. He just like devil's advocate say, it was bound to happen. Whatever was going to happen at the Oscars, it was going to happen at a restaurant, it was going to happen somewhere. It was bound to happen, and that thing that just triggered. So just for me, I saw a man just broken, man, and we're gonna, as other men, we're gonna hold him accountable. I think it was shameful the way he did. I think that's standard. We had to hold ourselves to a higher level as men, but I do really want to say he needs help, man, and I hope he gets some help because I
Yeah.
think he is going through a lot of shit, and oftentimes we don't have a lot of those spaces as men and outlets, but he has to take responsibility for his decisions, and we as men we need to hold him to that standard. But at the same time, man, I'm just he's going through a lot of shit, and man, I hope he really does get some help, and the people in his life, and the men in his life that really do care about it, I hope they step up and reach out to him. Um, Nevertheless, yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. I know we took that reaction all the way a minute and 25 minutes in, but it was a very great discussion. Thank you so much for all the panel for having the discussion and everybody that's on the live chat. Thank you so much for your feedback. Let me know what you guys think. I will always appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe to the channel. But we're gonna pivot and go right into the main topic that we're gonna discuss tonight. Do good men want to raise um, another man's child? All right. Yeah, I wanted to start off with that topic. I want to ask you guys, what do you guys think? This topic just came about for me. It was having conversations with a lot of modern women. Um, and I just see there's a lot of modern women today not worrying about their decisions when it comes to finding a good partner. A lot of women out there just because of this casual sexual dating culture or promiscuity is all-time high and is socially acceptable now. But reality, I see a lot of women when they get older, when they get older as they get to the end of their life, they realize that it's finally hard to find a good man. And one of the things they always complain about is, oh, how come men don't want to take care of my children? And they don't understand that concept of how biologically most men don't want to do that. But that's how this topic came up. I think it's a necessary discussion for women to know how men see when it comes, especially the good men, um, what we think about when it comes to taking that responsibility, and why a lot of men are not making that step. Because I think it is important. So I'm gonna bring it to the ladies real quick. Well, what's your thoughts on do good men want to raise another man's kids? I'll start with you, Natasha. What do you think?
Can we define good men before we start, just to kind of, so we don't, you see how that might be important, like,
Yeah,
well, maybe she could just say, what is a good man to her? So we're not, arguing, and our perceptions are, we're talking about different groups of people, so what is a good man?
I mean, I do think that putting that on the table is important because, like you said, we all have different definitions. Before I say anything, shout out to the good man that is my dad who took me on. My dad he's actually watching. Him and my mom are watching, and he came into my life when I was 3, and he's not left my side since. So for me, the standards that I have for what a good man is set very high because my dad is the man. My dad is a man who didn't have to, hold on, let me not be that guy. Because I'm still to this day it's very emotional for me because he could have easily met my mom and chose not to take me on, or maybe left her because of me, and willingly, effortlessly, and proudly, he understood that my mom was a package deal and never made her feel like she had to pick between her and I, never made her feel like she wasn't giving enough of herself to him. And my mom, let it be a shock that my mom is just as outspoken as I am, and that's her behavior is what I emulate. But my mother is the best of both worlds, where she very much makes sure to remind my dad that he is the man of the house, that he does take lead, and that and he is the king on the throne, and that is her thing. And so for me, that's why I'm always hard up about me being blessed in a sense that I've witnessed a very strong woman not just exercise her independence and her strength as a woman, but she also very much embodies the femininity of what a woman is supposed to be, which is taking care of her man, taking care of her household. When she has to work to support financially, it's never been her making him feel like he's less than, and so for me, in terms of what a good man is, I think that it's someone who doesn't make a woman choose between her and her child or make her something less than. Do I respect the men that feel like they can't? I feel like they can't date women with children, I think that that's okay. And I think that there's this stigma around men who make that decision that, oh, they ain't shit, or that they're terrible men because they don't want to date women with children. Some men, women included, don't want children, and it's okay. Having kids, for those of you that have children, it's not for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, if you realize when you meet someone that you're not willing to take that on, then, love yourself enough to make that decision, and also care about that person enough not to put them in a position where you're going to make them choose. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a case by case assessment. But in terms of a good man, I mean, in general, like that's for me, like, it's just being open, like, either if you're open for it and you're willing to write it out, cool. If you're not, then say that, and it's okay too. So.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was your definition of good men. But what's your response to, like, a lot of women out there? They find it hard for the men that they want, the men that they would love to select first. They don't want to take the responsibilities for their kids.
Then you should have been selected from the jump. If you didn't vet your baby daddy properly, you can't knock other men for knowing their own worth and having standards. And I think that's the thing, that it's like, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of smoke for this. A lot of women, there's this air of entitlement around women where it's like, well, I have children, and I have adults, so I, like, you have a specific pool of men. That, I mean, there are men out there, they like single moms, more power to y'all, but not every man is like that, and not every man should be ridiculed or scrutinized because that's not their cup of tea. At the end of the day, I think in terms of women feeling some type of way about, men not desire them, well, then maybe you should have thought about that before you made the irresponsible decision to have an unplanned child. Just saying, if that was the case. But
Okay, all right, no worries. All right, I'm gonna pass it on to Tui. Tui, what's your definition of a good man? And then, of course, share your response to the topic.
I wouldn't be able to give you an exact definition of a good man, but a good man is someone who will take care of himself, his family. He'll know how to work, and that, like I said, I couldn't give you like a set definition. And honestly, like, since the last time I came on here and Tanya like shot down like what I do look for, well, yeah, so I don't know. I've been doing a lot of reevaluating, but
Okay, all right, no worries. So what's we'll definitely leave that definition to be reassessed by Daniela next time. All right, no worries. But yeah,
but he was right though. Everybody lies, and like, everybody lies.
Not the good men. They don't. But yeah, what's your thoughts on the topic? Why a lot of women out there struggling? The good men that they want, but they struggle, like they say, like, oh, why they don't want to take care of my kids?
I don't know. I honestly don't know any women like that. But why don't good men want to take care of their kids? Or
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's that good men don't want to take care of their kids. I think that good men can spot a good mom, like they can spot, they can see a good mom. They know a good mom when they see her, they just know. So I'm not saying that, I'm just shooting myself in the foot. Not every woman is going to be a great mother, but for good men, they get to know you. You may be a lot of fun. You may be a nice person, but when it comes to being a mother, that's how you're going to take care of your relationship. And that's what they see, I think, but as a single mom myself, I'm going to say, like, I honestly just thought I was going to be single until like my kid turned 18, because the truth of the matter is it's really hard for another man to come in and raise a child that's not theirs and be a parent like to its fullest extent. You know what I mean? I don't know if any of you, well, Taniela, your wife had children before, right? Yeah. So it takes a special kind of man or woman, you know, a special kind of person to come into a relationship with children, a child or children, and for that person that they're in a relationship with who has the children to allow them to be a parent to its fullest extent. Because I think when men see women with children, they think, oh my God, that's going to be so much work. And I'm going to have to take care of these kids, but I'm not going to be able to discipline them. And like, they start going through this like reel of issues. And so they're like, okay, but she'll take care of me. And like, maybe I just want to smash that, you know, and like wait till the next one comes or something. But I think dating a single parent is hard, you know? So
Yep.
I'm just going to speak from my personal experience. Okay. So like, I've been talking to someone for a while, and then we just like recently made it serious, you know, and I introduced him to my kid, and, you know, turns out my kid actually likes him. So like, you know, you go out on the limb as a parent, as a single mom, like in hopes that this person that you vetted for like a year is a decent man. And you hope, you always have this hope that he's gonna treat your child as if they're his own. But at the same time, I know I can't really do that or have an expectation for that because she's not his, so
All right, no worries. All right, thank you, Tui, for sharing. I'm gonna pass it to the fellas. I'm gonna start with you, Devil's Advocate.
Ooh.
I know you got the stats and the statistics ready.
Well, I'm
what's
treading carefully. I'm treading
think?
carefully. It's a very interesting panel because I'm the only one without,
don't tread.
Well, I'm the only one on the panel without a biological or non-biological kid.
That's
guys,
I don't have kids.
Yeah,
don't tread lightly. You're good. I don't have kids either. Yeah. You're good.
Don't tread.
You're good anyway, regardless.
Well, no, I'm not saying I'm scared to offend. I'm acknowledging that I'm the least experienced in this realm. So like, given that, well, but it's interesting because you guys don't fall into the usual baskets. So like, for example, Natasha, you said you're a widow, right?
No, Tui is.
Okay. Oh yeah. And Daniela, I remember thinking that you weren't, kind of your run-of-the-mill stepdad, but I forgot the reason that popped in my head as you guys are making so many good points. But I'll start with the definition of good man, like, because the way to go back to the title, do good men want to raise another man's kids? It'd have been different if it was should they, because we live in a country where there's a lot of kids that need fathers. So that would have been easier to answer, but it's harder. Do good men want to raise another man's kids? And I think it's a very humbling and respectable thing to do. And our society needs it a lot. But I think the general answer is going to be no. And I think men today, we're a product of, the men that we aren't descendants of men that wanted to raise other men's kids for obvious reasons. They wouldn't have their own, That's why it's funny to me when I see women upset that men don't want to be serious with women who are over 40. I'm like, if they ever existed, they didn't exist for long because they never had kids. We're descendants of men who wanted fertile women, and so those desires were burned kind of into our reptilian brain. So we're not going to go off on that path, but so obviously we've evolved to not want to raise another man's kids, whether we're good or bad. And I would even go further to say that if a man singles out single moms, unless it's because he is either infertile or has kids of his own and wants a woman that is comfortable raising kids, which is rare that a man has custody of his kids these days. I think the answer to that is no. And I think if you're outside of that bubble, then it's evidence you're there's a group of men that like singling out single moms because they see them as low-hanging fruit, and I would despise those men, you know. I've seen it, especially in the Black community. I think that's disgusting because that messes up the kids. It's not healthy to see men going in and out of your mom's life. So I've dated one single mom in my life, and I would use the word dated lightly. Like, she was it this podcast that I mentioned that, like, she was kind of everything that I would want in a woman physically.
Yeah.
She had half, so she had half custody. So she didn't tell me about her kid because we met on a dating app, and she didn't flaunt it on her dating app, which I could tell. She's a very attractive mixed woman, and I could tell that she knew that she gets better matches if she doesn't mention her kid on her dating app. Like, that was hidden when usually it says no kids, some kids. We went on like 3 or 4 dates before she mentioned it, and I thought she was joking. It was literally, this could have been in a movie, because I was like, this is going too well. This is my sense of humor, hate it or love it. But I was like, after we had to just realize we had the same hobbies, I'm like, this is going too well. I'm like, tell me you're an axe murderer or something, or you're a terrible cook, or have a kid or something like that. Like, because I was sure she didn't, because we were on our like 4th date. We talked like for like 5 hours each date about our upbringing and stuff. She's like, well, I have a son. And I was like, I sent her the GIF of this baby toddler, like running in the room, going like, and then running out of the room. Because I thought, she was joking. It was a hilarious meme. It would have been great if she was kidding, but she wasn't kidding. And she's like, no, I really do. And then, like, it literally took me 30 minutes of like, okay, like, the joke was funny, you can tell me now, but she's like, no, I didn't. And then she sent me a picture of him, and he looked like her, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's a nephew. But yeah, she had a kid. I had to make a decision right then, like, and I ended up convincing myself to keep dating her. Eventually, when we started a physical relationship, it was like physically exclusive. And that's why I say I dated her, even though it never became, when I would consider something official and serious, my kind of measurements is like, have they met my mom? Is it official on Facebook? Or are we just exclusively have a physical relationship, because it's serious if it's on Facebook, because then your contacts know, and if they've met my family. But that's as far as it ever went. And the straw that broke the camel's back was, my mom was a single mom. Who am I to not at least give one single mom a try, And so I kind of felt like this guilt, like, so, I mean, even I have dated a single mom, but I never ended up meeting her kid, which is good. I don't believe in that unless things are serious. And it was like 6 to 9 months, start to finish. But yeah, it's not something that I would do again, at least for another 4 or 5 years. I'm 30 right now. It was just a lot. I gave it a chance, and I would say no. It's a no for me. But I understand men that would, especially if they have kids of their own, or want like to see a mom who can demonstrate that or he's infertile. You guys had a good point there. So to answer the video's title, no, I don't think they do. Most men don't. We've just evolved to be that way. And if you do, you see it as, a good man would see it as a huge responsibility, and they would hesitate more than a bad man would, because bad men are just going to be like, if a woman says she has a kid, oh, that's okay. Because they don't take it. You can't just in 2 seconds realize she has someone attached to her that's going to be attached to her for the next 16 years. And if I am serious with this woman and want something long-term with her, that's my responsibility too, because that kid deserves a father. I can't be her husband and not the kid's father, especially if she has at least half custody. So good men, I think, have a lot to think about before they decide to commit to that. Whereas a man who would just commit the day of, is probably just looking for something short-term and physical if he jumps into it. So I would tell women that mean something to me to tread carefully. And the good men you'll have to fight for. If my daughter ends up being a single mom, I would really be trying to hammer that in their head. Like, make sacrifices as far as what you want, or the guys that wanted you in college, and think about the type of father you want for your kid. And because it's about him now, you know, you can choose your partner, but he can't choose his father, and you know, no kid can. So that's the most important decision she's going to make in her life. And I hope, you know, I hope I don't end up being a single dad. And if I am, I hope I get custody. So yeah, a lot of conflicting thoughts, none the least experience on the, probably talking too much for not having a kid, but
no worries.
Daniela, take it away.
Before I pass it to Daniela, but I think I want to highlight something Devil said. The good men would actually think about it and take some time before committing, where the bad men will actually just commit to a single mom immediately and not really think about you know, the long-term effects and the responsibility. I think that's really, really great for a lot of women that's listening right now, whether you're a single mom or a woman. That's good to know. I think that's something that I want to highlight real quick. You know, if you tell a guy, I'm a single mom, he just says, yes, I accept you in the first night. That's a that's a red flag. He wants something more besides that responsibility. He probably just wants sex.
Yeah.
And women, if you need a cosign, there's a female cosigning to that statement. So raise that red flag and wave that 1,000 times, because that's big facts.
Yeah, because yeah. All right, Oh man, thank you for dropping that. Devil's Advocate, thank you for dropping that. Daniela, man, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. The first one is just pure, plain and simple. No man sets out to look after another man's child. But depending on certain situation and experience they've gone through, either that man's learned to accept that I don't give a shit about dating a single mom, or, you know, I'm not going to date a single mom because XYZ. So to answer that question simply as it's put, no man sets out to look after anyone's kid. That's the truth to it, truth to the matter. But the second one is also, who are these questions coming from? And what are they intended for in terms of how their perception of good men are? Are they talking about good men in general? Or are they talking about the good men who's single, got a great job, knows how to look after himself, and has no kid? Are these the men that they're looking at? The super successful guys, you know, got some good morals and values, have no kids, have no baggage in the sense to come along? Because I would wager you that that's majority of what these women are talking about when they complain about men not wanting to look after their children. But in general, good men, in the sense of, would they want to look after someone else's child? It depends. In my situation, I was adopted out at a very young age to two non-biological parents, and I got to experience living as an adopted child, and I was made known of who I was at a very early age. But the upbringing that I had, the love that I had from both parents, I couldn't tell the difference whether I was theirs biologically or not, because it was just there. We function as a family, we function as a unit, and not a day in my life where my dad came up to me and accused me of being a certain person because I did not belong to him biologically. So right off the bat, I had a very different gauge on relationships in that sense. And I've always adored and looked up to my dad in that sense that I'm not even your child, and yet you've taught me very, you know, invaluable lessons growing up. So my metric for what it is to be in a relationship with a woman was very different in that sense. All I saw was, this man loved me. He put me in my place when I was acting like a little shit. He disciplined me, but he also knew when it was the right time to sort of take me away from the disciplinary environment and to show me some real good values. And in turn, I got to see his relationship with mum at the same time. You know, how he was as a man, how he was as a leader of the family, and the interaction between the both of them. So as I was growing up, I prioritized the type of woman rather than what she was bringing with her along the way. So that's where my difference is. And you would find that if most men that look at this question and go, what the fuck did they know? I'm a good man, I would totally raise another person's kid. You often find them in situations where they already have kids of their own, or they come from a similar situation as I am, who's grown up in that environment, had a step parent of some sort, parental figure. But when we're talking about good men who are single, come from a somewhat decent household, parents were at home doing whatever it is that they're doing, majority of those men do not gauge single mothers as logical options for long-term relationship. And it makes sense logically when you think about it. They've never experienced it, so it'll always become this thing of, I'm taking on a whole responsibility that is not mine to take up. I've never experienced what it is to metric that off someone else. So why would I take that upon myself? I have no one to compare against in terms of what my own capability is as a potential father. So, so that's my answer to the question. But the other thing that I want to delve into is that single mothers bring certain dramas, in a sense, that I've experienced. Because I've dated not majority, but I've dated all across the board. I've dated single mothers and non-single mothers. And the last relationship that I had before my wife was another single mother. I always have a rule when I date any single mom. And my rule is, we're dating, we're not exclusive. And by being non-exclusive, I should not meet your child until the day I decide that you're the woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with. There's a reason for that. I do not want to taint your child with a possibility that I could be that person for them. I'm not going to be an asshole. I'm not going to create any trauma for that child. I'm not going to do any of that thing. But being there, being present, and that child having somewhat of a presence imprinted in their mind of me is going to be traumatic enough for them. They will grow up into a world where relationship is not valued because they see all sorts of different figures come through mum's life, and that's how they're going to gauge the world. I don't want to be a part of that. You should never make me a part of that until I get to decide you're the woman I want to end up with. Yeah. And funnily enough, a couple of months into us dating, who came in the car ride? Her son. And that was it. And, she came after me after that. She's like, oh, well, you're dating another single mother. How do you justify, breaking things off with me? And I'm like, my boundaries. I told you them clear cut from day one. You did not respect them. And now your child knows me, and that's a memory that's going to live on with them for the rest of their life. I don't want to be a part of that. My wife respected that decision until the day I decided to ask her out. And even a couple of months after that, I finally got to meet my son. And I said to her, you respect that. I promise you, whatever this dating, non-exclusive, whatever it is that we're in, if I turn that into a long-term relationship, I'm committed to you full-fledged, 110%. I don't care whether you're a single mother or not. You commit to me, I will commit to you 1,000%. And she did that. She left me alone. You guys know the story of her being her feminine side. Certain things I had to step in and say, hey, me gauging you as a single mother is also me gauging you as my wife and also my baby mama. Probably don't do those sort of things because I'm scoring you lower and lower if you keep doing it. Those dynamics we worked out. But in terms of children being involved, as a man, I should not meet your child until we are fully exclusive. And that should have a time frame. It should be no less than 6 months. Why? Because you need to build up what it is that you need within that relationship with that woman, that man, whatever it is, and then also come into the realization whether you want to look after someone else's child. It is heavy work. It's not hard work. It's heavy work, right? So I just wanted to add my 2 cents on that, but that's how my dynamic is working. And it's worked because I've never been the guy that had the two parents who worked out. So my metrics vastly different. I don't advise my situation to anyone unless you know for wholeheartedly you can do it. And this is why a lot of people confuse about my statement. Oh, but you did it. You dated a single mom. You're in a relationship for over X amount of years. Yes, but my upbringing was very unique. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to have the same level of success that I have, because I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to give you a process or system that only works for minority rather than the majority. Best course of action is always the best course of action.
I gotta show some love on that, because if more men were like that, that gives especially the Black community hope, because so many people are so invested in the mistakes they've made in their life or position that they've put themselves in. I see this so much when I see older women giving younger women advice. They're a single mom, they raised a kid. If their kid doesn't amount to much, the daddy ain't shit and never invested in it. It's his fault. But if the kid ends up being something, being a single mom doesn't have anything to do with it. You can make it. But like, you'll never, I mean, it's so rare, but despite all the statistics, that you see a single mom saying, listen, like, you need to find a good man and you need to keep him. And when they do try and tell women how to keep them, it ain't right. You need to find a nice, vulnerable man. But like, I respect people, just like you've done it 3 times in this show. You said results not typical. I wouldn't recommend it unless X, Y, and Z. And I wish I saw more of that everywhere, because I mean, it takes a lot of in what's the word, introspection to say.
People triple down on their experience when they know that their experience, their past experience, was not the best course of action. That's why people triple down on certain opinions, even though they know they're wrong. They don't want to be labeled as the villain, or oh, but you did that, so you're saying I can be good if I did that. So as a natural defense mechanism for people, they're like, okay, I advocate for that because I did it. If I did it and I come out on the other side all right, then you shouldn't look at it in such a way when it's like, no, I regret doing that to a certain extent. It's built character, but I know how easily that can turn the other way. And I keep saying this to my wife, I could have been a fucking criminal and a great one at it. I'm surprised I'm still alive and still sane for some reason, based on the experience I've gone through. But I don't go out there and preach, okay, you should go through this because I've gone through it and I've come out of the other side good. No, I understand completely the opposite effect of it, and how it is more likely for most people to go through my experience and perceive it completely different. So when we're breaking it down logically, I like the hoe phase, right? I don't really touch on my past, but man, was I a player. I don't advocate for the hoe phase because I know that has no benefit to anyone at all. And my experience and how I perceive my experience is not what everyone else is going to perceive it as is. So
yeah,
I'm hypocritical because I know the opposite can be interpreted in that way.
All right.
No worries. If you guys want to say I have a disagreement, I had some health. I mean, I don't say healthy pushback because I don't advocate the whole phase for men. But I had something to say before. Sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost fallacy. That's what we're talking about. And I was an econ major, but that's what we're talking about. So the sunk cost is when you invest in something and it doesn't turn out right. But so like the sunk cost fallacy is when people keep investing in an investment that didn't turn out right. But the psychology is, oh, I already have so much money in it. So just like that Healthy Gamer GG podcast that I watched, that someone in the chat said they also watch it and it's good. I just was listening to that today, and this girl was like, their first 2 sentences when she was introducing herself to a psychiatrist is, we've been through so much over the past 4 years. Like I've invested in our relationship for the past 4.5 years. We've been through so much. So she felt that like because they've been through so much together that's a reason to stay in the relationship. She didn't recognize that there are healthy relationships out there where they haven't been through much in terms of drama because there's a synergy, you know. So that's like an example of the sunk cost fallacy, just like we were talking about just now. So I'll let someone else chime in.
No worries,
go ahead,
no worries.
Just want to answer Basi's question. Sorry, this is nothing against. I agree with what you're saying, advocate. Just a quick answer to Basi. I never had anything to change. I had to add value on the relationship as it went on, but I went into relationship looking at quality rather than who they were and what baggage they bring to the table to a certain extent. And like I've mentioned in the podcast before, I was heavily invested in femininity, a woman that could look after me, so in turn I could look after her. That's all my metric. So in terms of, did you have to change the way you look at single moms? Never saw them as single mothers, to be honest, because I came from that environment. So it's the thing of if you live in that environment, you'll never see what the outside world will see. So that's where my perspective was. Never saw it in that sense because I was exposed to it 24/7 essentially.
All right, no worries. Thank you fellas for dropping that. Thank you for sharing that real quick. I'm gonna pass it on to the ladies. What's your reaction? What's your response to what the fella said? Go ahead, Natasha.
All very valid, and I think that the one thing that I love about getting to be on here is the collective perspectives. Like I'm always learning something new. I'm always taking away from here, and I think for me, if there's anything that I can add to it is, from the kids' perspective, when Daniela talks about, really putting in that effort and making that commitment, I think that is very important because once you take on the responsibility of dating a single parent, you don't get to backtrack or pick and choose, there's no on and off switch. So I think for my only additive would be, for the women that do, date men, single moms that end up in relationships with men, like appreciate them and validate them in a sense that, like, the one thing that you said, Daniela, is you referred to her son as your son. My dad has never a day in my life not referred to me as his daughter. And so to hear you say that, for me, like, that hits different for me, right? Because my dad's never made me not feel like I'm not his. And so it's like, or has never made me feel like I'm not his. And so that for me is like a really big deal. I mean, I also have a stepbrother and my siblings are my half siblings, but we were never raised with those labels. We're brothers and we're sisters. And that's all at the end of the day. So it's like for women that, because I've seen it where like women pick and choose, right? Where like when things are good and when you're, giving their kid accolades, and it's all good for you to play in that like parental role. But the moment that you try to be, disciplinary, especially I feel like when it's like men being disciplinary towards their sons, then it's like all of a sudden like, oh, well, that's not your kid. Like women, you can't do that. Like that's not, you don't get to pick and choose, just like you as the man choosing to date the single mom, you don't get to pick and choose the responsibility either. It should be equal across the board because you guys are both being a blessing to one another by, the man receiving the single mom and the single mom, getting to be in a relationship with someone. So, I mean, I think that, I just appreciate everything you're saying. I have nothing to add to it other than that. I mean, because like I said, for me, it's in being, because I met my biological DNA, because I know I read what someone in the comments was asking about, like, when do you decide, or like, do you force your kid to call, that man, your boyfriend dad? And you don't.
Yeah.
For me, it was very natural, where it was like, I think if I remember correctly, it caught my mom off guard. Because when I was like, hey, dad, and I think I was still a kid, but it's like one of those things where as kids, I feel like that intuition is very existent. And when you experience that security that you receive from a parent figure, and when you don't have that, then it's like natural, I guess. Like, so I think that it should never be something that is forced. And I do think that, I think that it's a very big responsibility for a man to, to take on the responsibility. And I think women forget that it's not just, them taking on you're essentially taking on two relationships on two different scales. And so having to really have that neutral energy. But I do appreciate how you also said, Daniela, how when you were dating your wife, your now wife, like you didn't her being a single mom wasn't a part of the curriculum or wasn't a part, because that's really what it should be. It's you said honing in on the type of woman that you want. Like when you know what you want, then that essentially makes the kid just a bonus. If you know in the long run, like you want to be a dad or a parent. So I think that that's something that's a really valuable knowledge for people in general. I mean, but yeah. That's my
That's a great point, because all of these are great conversations to be had, especially people who are in the situation, right? Where one person's got no child, they come into the relationship with the same sort of mindset that I have. You're gonna fight an uphill battle. That mama or that daddy is gonna be defensive as fuck of their children. And when you get into the relationship and you're trying to, now that you have a relationship with that single parent, and you've gone the full route to get to the relationship, and now you see certain behaviors that you want to help mold. The first couple of times it may take some time too, that you try and discipline that child. Oh man, mommy or daddy is gonna fucking come for your throat, and it's natural parent behavior, and they acknowledge it in their own head. It's a subconscious reaction. But if you're gonna take on that relationship, you have to also be ready to say, hey, we signed up to this. I have signed up to this just as much as you have. You have to give me this space to be able to be the other parent that this child needs. If you think that whatever my method of disciplining our child is out of pocket, you hit me after we've done whatever it is, and I'll adjust then. We don't argue in front of our children. That disagreement, close doors. Let's talk about it. The other thing too, you always feel uncomfortable calling someone else's child yours until that child has truly acknowledged you as their parent. My son, I think when he was 5, was the first. So I met my wife when he was 3 going on 4, and at 5 going on 6, he had a conversation with my wife one evening, and he asked the question, is it all right for me to call him dad? I feel like I really want to call him dad. So is it all right for me to call him dad? Is he all right with me calling him dad? After that, I felt like comfortable. I knew what I was signing up for. I knew what I was going to be coming into the relationship, but it wasn't until he decided that it was the time to refer to me as his dad that it became truly comfortable to say, he's my son. So you should never force children to choose certain things. They should come to it naturally, and you should always trust your child's instinct in certain matters. If they don't like the person you're with, that's a clear-cut sign you shouldn't be with that person.
Oh, all right. No worries. Yeah, that's facts, man. Thank you for sharing that. Tui, what was your thoughts or response to the fellas or what they shared?
I'm not gonna lie. I don't disagree with everything they said.
Yeah.
I do want to say something, not to the single men who are trying to date these single mothers, but mostly to the single moms. It's not that we shouldn't have expectations, but I think to date in today's climate, you really need to be willing. If you expect a good man to help you raise your child, you need to be willing to make them a parent. You need to be willing to do a lot of things. And, I don't know the right thing to do or say when it comes to dating as a single parent, because honestly, I've dated one other person since I've been a single parent, and it lasted a year, but long distance is stupid. But it's hard to navigate these waters and know exactly what to do, especially as a single female who has to look out for her daughter, because essentially I'm teaching my daughter, what's right and wrong, in terms of dating. So, you never want to put your money on the wrong horse. So I think in some respect, you have to put your partner first. And I know it doesn't sound right, but I feel like in any relationship, in order for it to work, you have to put them first. It's even if you are a single parent, that is not their child, in order to make it work. So, you've got to have all this trust. in in them to help take care of your child. And that means you have to step back a little and let them parent. And I think that's hard for most women to do, because I think most women's instinct is, that's not your baby, but I want you to help me raise that baby,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I think women, I mean, they love their kids so much, and they go from having a lot of options and being young to having a kid. There's 9 months where you're generally, you're not seeking a new partner. Maybe you dated the guy for the first 2 years of the kid's life. Now, you have a kid that you love a ton, and people are telling you that you should lower your standards, when really it's like, you didn't like get a felony or something. Like, you're the same person and you're a loving mom. So I can see why it would be like a shock or offensive for someone to hear that from someone. I was going to mention earlier, the dichotomy I'm seeing here is that the most able men to date single moms are the least incentivized to. So like, because they have, one of the main reasons, because they have so many dang options, like, wouldn't it be ironic if having a kid, there's really no changing it, but like, how men like women, men are visual creatures, right? What if having kids only made women better? It increased their metabolism rate, and the kids just shat out money, then there'd be like a completely different dynamic. We're in a society where stepdads are needed, but it's ridiculous to even think about, because the men with the most options, if you're a single mom, you have to convince the people that are hardest to convince to date you. And they happen to be the best options you have. So like, if I had a daughter, I would try and make sure she realizes that it's not just men competing for you. You want a husband someday, and good men don't always just come running after you like in Cinderella. But at the same time, if you want a good man, you can't compete the way you see all these other girls competing. You have friends that guys have used and played. Yes, like all girls do. Okay, well, to prevent that from happening to you, you need to lead with integrity and class, and you need to be able to set boundaries. And hopefully I've raised her to be able to do that. And God forbid she ends up in a single mom situation, I would tell her, there are single moms that try and demand that a man love her kid and accept her kid through shame. And then there are single moms that acknowledge that is an additional responsibility on top of the bills he's probably going to end up paying. The typical ways that people that are a couple invest in each other, that's an additional responsibility, an 18-year financial responsibility, probably more expensive than a house. That's a price tag on you. And you have to be such an enticing option that he sees you as a better option than women who don't have that price tag on them. It's possible to do, but it's going to take a lot of work. So the single moms who sit back, kick their feet up and say, entertain me and compete for me, they're going to lose. And I would tell her, those aren't the women you have to worry about. And that's many single moms nowadays as well. I'm speaking in generalities. And you also, here's the kicker, you can't lead with sex or sexuality. And that's the easiest way to get a man's attention. So you're fighting an uphill battle. Hopefully I raised her to, fitness is a huge priority for me. So hopefully that's not an issue with her. But if she knows those things, she's competing for men, but you can't lead with sex. And if she has a kid, that she has to make up for that with things that men want. I think she'd have a fighting chance, especially against today's modern single moms. But again, it'd be a really hard conversation to have. And, she'd find it awkward, I'm sure. Just it's an awkward conversation to have with a parent. I never talked to my mom about dating and relationships and sex. Unless it was like a Wellness 2 assignment where you were required to. We had this stupid sheet of paper you had to take home and get signed by your parents that, like, you talked about like using protection and STDs and stuff. But that's what I tell my daughter. She needs to realize those things in order to find a good man the right way with the right intentions.
Yeah, thank you, Devil's Advocate. I do want to read a comment real quick from Fatty. Fatty said, the ones they say we are a package deal, take it or leave it, will shame you into being a stepdad. That's not a healthy way to get what you want. We know is a package deal already. No, that's absolutely correct. And that's something that I do see of a lot of single moms that act like the women who don't have kids. Like and they think that that they deserve or they're entitled to that man when what they bring to a table from a man's eyes is not the most incentivized option that we should pursue. But I do see that mentality of a lot of women. And what was it, Daniela or Devil's Advocate? The good men out there that most women want, it's just about like supply and demand. Like he has options. So that's why when I have conversations with a lot of these single moms, like the good men that you guys want, he has an option. And unfortunately, the single moms, you bring there's a lot of challenges and complexities that you bring onto the table. That the other option of dating a woman that doesn't have children, it's much easier just to it's just what's the better option, what's the easier option. Let's go with the option that doesn't have those same challenges and complexities. So that's like Devil's Advocate. It's an uphill battle for a lot of women to face. So, but I do want to ask Daniela and Devil's Advocate real quick before we conclude the podcast. I think this is very important for all the single moms out there. For both Daniel and Daniela and Devil's Advocate, if you did happen to, of course, obviously, Daniela, you're married to a single mom, but Devil's Advocate, if you did wanted to marry a single mom, what would they have to do to convince you that even though there's all these options with other women out there that don't have kids, what would a single mom have to do to convince a good quality man to overlook the other options, and choose her? And that's the question I wanted to ask you guys, because I think a lot of single moms need to hear this. They're competing an uphill battle. But if a good quality man had to, out of all the options he has, he decides, you know what, I'm going to choose you. Why would that man choose you? And for what reason? And what would a single mom have to show that man? I'll start with you, Daniela.
Right off the bat, don't have baby daddy issues. As much as we have deadbeat dads and whatnot. I have this conversation with my wife a lot, every time that we have some disagreement with family, even up to a point where me and my parents had a big falling out. The first thing that we walked out of that situation, I said to her, regardless whatever problems we have with other people, adults, within our family dynamic, we should never poison our kids to grow up and have the same worldview that we have. It's the same with my son's real dad. And I make it that he knows who he is, that he has a relationship with him, regardless of whatever the fuck he did. He could be a deadbeat dad, did whatever the fuck he did to end the relationship. I make sure that my son has a relationship with him, and I pressure the shit out of him to have a relationship with him. Why? Because at the end of the day, I'm not here to replace. I'm here to add value. I'm just here to add value to his life. And when the time comes and my son says to me, Dad, I really want to go and look for my dad. Dude, go for it. I will never replace him. What I hope is that I give you some sets of values and morals so that you may grow up and be better than both of us. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to say, fuck your dad. He's a, dumbass. You did this to your mother, blah, blah. That's when you start manipulating children to have certain point of view that they never experience themselves. They should be able to judge character on their own based on things that you display as a man or a father, so that they may baseline it on how they perceive the world. So that's the first thing. If a woman comes to you, dating you as a man, And the first thing that rips out of her is, yeah, my baby daddy's all shit, and he's done that. Yeah, red flag. Second, be a woman. You don't have to defend your womanhood. Why are you defending masculinity by being strong and independent? You're not a masculine being. Be a woman. Be comfortable being who you are. Having a child is the next step of the agenda, and a man who knows what it is that he's coming into will fully accept that without even saying it. And don't bring your children up. And if you find it that you're having a conversation, you're dating this person, and the other party is constantly trying to get you to show them or have a relationship with your child, that should be a red flag. Why is this person wanting to know your child, prior to knowing who you are fully in all your entirety? They should be comfortable with you and who you are. They should have a relationship with you first and foremost. And it should be yours and your child's choice to introduce this man, woman into your life, not theirs. When there's a pressure that goes in from the other party, that should be a red flag. But those are just the two things. Everything else to me can be built on top of that. Everything. It's just, don't poison your child against the other parent, regardless of how bad they are. That child still deserves to get to decide that on their own when they come into that age. Second of all, for the men, find someone who's a feminine woman. A feminine woman will give you the right environment to build the foundation that makes being a stepdad a little bit easier than it is. So only those 2 points.
No worries. I remember you shared in the past podcast before, Daniela, that the one thing that trumped your wife's for being a single mom was her femininity. That's what made, even though you knew that logically that majority of them wasn't a good option, but that trumped the statistics was her femininity.
I said to this woman, we're not exclusive. I'm going to fuck around. That's just who I am. I know who you are as a person. So if you hold out for as long as you want, that's on your own. You take that risk. But if this develops into a relationship later on, just know the day that I commit to you is that me done. Out of the market, you 1000%. That's a risk that you put in, and that's what I'm promising you at the end of this, whatever it is that we're having right now. But it's a promise that's got 50-50. She did not give a shit. When I text her in the afternoon, what you doing? How are you? I'm probably going to shoot out for dinner. I'm still at work. Within 5 minutes, she was there. Here's some food. Are you sleeping on site? Here's a blanket, pillows. Look after yourself. I'll see you probably next week. Didn't talk to her for a couple of weeks. As soon as I messaged her, she's like, oh, how you been? You need anything? She did that ongoing for more than 9 months. Like, fuck, if this woman is looking after me even before a relationship, imagine when I hold it down for her. And, it was still a risky bet. I wasn't still, this is the thing. I was 80% sure that was going to be improved, but there was still that 20% risk in a sense. So I made a decision. It turned out well. Could have easily just she could have been like, well, I got you now. Where the fuck are you going? I'm going to be whatever I am going to be. But it didn't. Right? So
all right.
You take the risk. That's all I'm saying.
Take the risk. All right. No worries. And then, Devils, man, if you had to date a single mom, like what would she have to prove to like overlook all the statistics? What would she have to do?
Well, my first thought, I'll keep things simple. I would just be like, I want one thing. If this is gonna get serious, babe, and that is polyamory. I'm sorry, man. I'm a young bull still. That's like, oh God, man, I can't believe you're cornering me because now I have to be in that square. Like I literally was trying to write things down, FBI, femininity, beauty, and inspiration. Those are great. And then I kept going. I was like, patience. It's got to be young. And then I'm like, virginity, like, which doesn't make sense. But like, man, I wouldn't consider seriously dating a single mom right now because I'm young enough to where I'm not used to my pool having that many of them.
Yeah.
Like, not as many. I'm from I was born in a bad area of Kansas City, but my mom moved out of that area when I was like 7, and I was raised in like a suburb that was like 80% white. So like statistically, my area, like the people in my class, they aren't, the normal crowd doesn't have a lot of kids yet. When I'm 35, like even the younger girls are gonna probably have kids. And I think if I'm still single, I'm gonna have to be more realistic about considering that because more of the normal like crowd will have that. I think not that it's not normal to do in your mid 20s, but women are waiting longer and longer now. So all jokes aside, I think it's not for me right now. But if I had to answer the question and I was 35, I would say they would need to have enough of these things to outcompete the women who are childless. I'm a little more forgiving now when it comes to looks, just because I've lost enough hair dealing with better looking girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the most dramatic ones, like have been some of the best looking girls that I've dated. But I would say femininity. And people would make me define that. And I would say, like I would want someone who prioritizes their health and all aspects of their health. Hygiene is huge. I love hygiene, good hygiene. Cooperativeness, and yeah, and a huge factor in that would be if I have a kid. I probably would. It'd be on par with childless women if I had a kid, because the security that comes with them knowing how to responsibly raise a child would probably make up for, if she had her baby daddy in order, then it would probably kind of balance out, if I were to give you an honest answer. But my knee-jerk reaction as a young dude is like, we're not exclusive. Like
Yeah.
after dating the one single mom, I don't know. Like, yeah, that's where I'd be at right now. I struggle.
No, I totally understand your response, because I probably would respond the same way, because it's really hard to choose a single mom when you have the options, right?
Mhm.
And I think no, I totally understand where you're coming from, like, because everything that a single mom can bring to the table, a younger woman with no kids can.
I
know
can
what I'm
still
saying?
get from a young, attractive
Woman,
single woman. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's, if you're a man to have options, I know, because there's a lot of good single moms, and I know personally, that have shown interest into me, but the thing is, for me, is like, I have younger women and women who have no kids show the same interest, and they're just as feminine, they're just as beautiful, but they don't have the extra the ch- challenges and complexities that they bring with the kids in it. So it's just very hard, especially for a man that has those options. It's really hard to choose that. So, like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a comment that said, being a single mom. Oh yeah, fatty. Being a single mom usually beats the femininity out of a woman, unfortunately, and that's true. And you almost can't blame them, because to raise a child, you need to be assertive to the child. You need to be assertive when you feel like the child's threatened. You need to be mom and dad. You need to be protector, provider, nurturer, and obviously that's going to bring out more masculine traits in a woman. And just women believe that they can control that and turn it on and off, especially like with their career. Same thing. You have to exhibit masculine traits to excel in your career, and they're like, well, I'll just turn it off. I know how to be feminine when I need to with my man. But that's like saying MMA fighters are just as likely to exhibit the ability to, like, I don't know, it's a bad example, but to like not instinctively resort to violence, but like
Yeah.
it becomes part of your problem solving. Uh, if you have to be assertive in your career, it becomes part of like the problem solving mechanism in your brain.
Yeah.
And I almost can't blame them for it, but at the same time, it doesn't make men like those traits anymore. So,
Yep. No worries. Tui, any thing you want to add last thoughts after the conversation?
Just don't date us. For everyone out there, don't date single moms. Leave us alone. Let us just like raise our kids and live in spinsterhood until our kids are grown and out of the house. It's gonna be
Fair
easier
enough.
for all of us. And then when you get that phone call, like at like 2 a.m. when like we're all lit and we're like, "Hey, I need something from you," and it's not a relationship, then you can answer our call. I just solved every single mother's problems ever. Right, and that's it. You're welcome.
So how do we get your numbers? So like, I was like going along with your little scenario. That's actually happened to me. It was like bar close, no, not bar close, but like I was texting my friend, we were gonna take the drunk bus home, and I hear this little, "Hey, you're cute."
Oh no.
And there's this little like tiny 5'3" chick, like, and it's funny because I didn't find out she had a kid until like we'd hooked up twice, and like 2 weeks later I was playing volleyball and her friend was like, "Hey, I think you're the one that, you know, with my friend, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I've seen you guys around." This was in college. And then she was like, "Yeah, did you know she has a kid?" And I forget whether she said boyfriend or fiance, but if it was boyfriend, they became engaged within the next like month or two. Like it's like her last hurrah, and I was like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, that was interesting. But to your point, you guys can get what you need when you need it. You guys are women after all.
Yeah, that's the crappy thing. Like I couldn't do the one night stand thing. I tried, but I couldn't like go through with it. And then I made up like some weird excuse, and I was like, I have to get home.
That's admirable.
Hey, Tui, if you are gonna call those late night booty calls at night,
I can't answer them now because I am recently.
Oh yeah.
Well, if you do happen to make that call or reach out to those guys, make sure you reach out to a guy that has options. But if you reach out to a simp or a guy that's barely got any for a long time, he's gonna fall in love with you.
Oh yeah, automatic. Like, any simp would love me. Like I'd be the man of their dream. You know?
He's gonna be like, "Can I be a dad?"
Yeah, can I be your daddy and your baby daddy?
He's gonna say,
"You would be the Will to your Jada."
Yeah, like terrible man.
Whoa, clip it.
No, but
too soon.
From what Taniela said, like on this podcast, verifies that I may have found my non-New Zealand Taniela.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I was like making notes. I'm making notes, and I was like, yeah, no, that. All right, we're good. I think we're cool.
Don't mention that until 2 months. Okay, don't.
No, this has been on for a year, and then it's just recently that we're like. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep you guys updated in another year.
No worries, or you can just jump on with us. Natasha, you have last thoughts on the conversation?
So I actually Googled this question because I was just curious as to see what would pop up, and Reddit was wilding out with all of the different things that were said. But a couple of things that did stick. A lot of guys were saying that they opted to not stay in long-term relationships with single moms or ended up leaving because the children were their first priority. So with that said, for me, for the men that choose not to embark on those relationships because you are choosing you, it doesn't make you not a good man. It makes you aware of your self-worth, and that's okay. And I think that always needs to be said because I feel, again, I'm so, for me, it's like I'm so rooted in my own femininity that I feel like a part of me being feminine is always finding ways to edify men, because I feel like men are undervalued and like they're underappreciated in the sense of like what I take away from this is like we're so conditioned and like based by the strong woman that I was raised that I do have masculine attributes, but I know now to seek a man that is looking to give me back my femininity. And Taniela, and even advocate with the things that you guys have said, that's what my takeaway. And so for me to have a significant other that gives that back to me is like a really big thing for me. And it's like how you said about being career-based advocate. I think it was the last podcast, the one prior, when Daniela said that his wife was the same way, but he just had to learn to reincorporate the femininity into her when she came home from work. And that for me was like a really big thing, because when you can go home after a long, stressful day and have your man like run you a bath, or like something as simple as like sit down and how was your day with a glass of wine or like a shot of heme, whatever your thing may be, like that really does make a difference. So I think that, one, edifying the men that choose not to date single moms, it doesn't make you less than. And two, you know, like I said, you know, for men, I think that, you know, making note of that, you know, that Daniela, that's, I mean, everything like Tui, I think we all have our own little checklist of things, because I'm always, my mom, when her and I recap, because she's watched the last few podcasts, the things that you say, Daniela, like they stick. And so know that like the word that you're putting out there and like the things that, you know, hopefully these men that are watching and stuff are receiving is good stuff. And so I'm thankful for that. But yeah, that's my takeaway, that I don't think that if you choose not to date a single mom that it makes you less than. And if you like polyamorous, like some people, that's cool too, to each their own. But yeah, thanks for the good conversation. I mean, this is probably one of the best ones I've been on yet. And I definitely, my notepad is full as well. So.
All right. No worries. No worries. I just want to say thank you so much for everybody tuning in. I'm going to ask the guests real quick. How can they find you, if they can find you? And you're in the final thoughts from the men as well. Daniela, final thoughts, and how can they find you? If you don't want to be found. I forgot. Sorry.
It's amazing. It's an amazing conversations that we have with these topics, right? Because as much as we like to delve into what makes the internet rattle and, you know, go after women to a certain extent, these are actual real issues that the community at large are going through. So not just to take away, but an add on to any man who's going to embark on a journey where you're looking at a potential wife, long-term relationship with a single woman, single mother. It is an uphill battle until the day that you essentially become the leader of the house. You can become that earlier on this on the relationship as it develops, but until she lowers her guard and fully allow you to be the dad, and the child chooses you, that's when the battle starts becoming a little bit less heavier. It's not hard, it's heavy. And there's a big reason why I say that. My experience have led me to know that my dad done a great job, that I've turned out the way that I am. And I relate so much to my son in the sense that if I came into the relationship and half-assed it, he won't get the same blessings in a sense. I can't find the right word, but I'll use blessings. He won't find the same blessings that I have taken out of life. So it is my job to pass on the values and the lessons that my dad has passed on to me, in the hopes that he might turn up better than I am, better than his own father, and to hopefully carry on and look after his own children in a certain extent. But don't date single mothers if you're not ready for it. You have other options as a man and as a single man with no kids. And like what Natasha's saying, you're not a bad person if you choose otherwise. It's within your own rights. It's within your own choices. You have the options, so choose it. Because it's one thing to settle than to pick your relationship. Settling for someone, it will always make it a lot harder. But if you pick the person that you're with, it makes things easier. And just to add on, I did pick the woman that I'm with. So that's what makes it much more beautiful than it is.
Thanks. All right. Thank you, Daniela. Devils, final thoughts, and how can they find you if you're looking for a polyamorous relationship?
I think we hit on like just about every aspect of the conversation. Will, you had some great questions that led us to some great conversation. I think the takeaway is you need to be both parties, not just the guy, but both parties need to be very like self-aware, introspective, and great communicators to make something like that work. Men need to put more effort into mitigating risk when entering those scenarios, because they don't cover their bases before just jumping into a relationship with a single mom. I would say if I had to take away for the women, refer to my advice to my would-be daughters and realize that if you just sit back and let men compete for you, you're going to have a pool of men that aren't as good as the ones that you could have had if you focus on bettering yourself and realizing that a great man that's a great catch that has his shit together is going to take some convincing to raise another man's child. But it is possible. I mean, look at Daniela. So it's a great, if both parties are aware of both of those things, I think there's a great shot at some recovery from what's been going on in modern society.
All right.
And you can find me. I have a YouTube channel, Devil's Advocate. I've actually just finished up the last 2-3 months. I've been finishing up a 9-month data analytics bootcamp. So I haven't posted much. I posted a lot in December, a lot in November. Last few months I've hopped on the Lead Attorney, Will's podcast, probably the most. So I like the conversations we have on here. And then a couple other podcasts just because I haven't had the time to edit videos and whatnot. But now that I graduated about a week and a half ago, I'm in the interview phase. Working a couple side gigs right now.
Congratulations.
Congrats,
yeah,
man.
thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, goes right with my analytics and nerdy side. So it kind of tickles that part of my brain. But yeah, I've had a lot more free time now, so I'll be able to jump on more panels. I look forward to more of our conversations. But yeah, my channel's Devil's Advocate, and I'm going to do a lot of what we're doing here, but probably mostly solo reaction videos. I'm learning a lot about crypto very fast. That's one of my interests with my analytical ambitions. And then I might even do some fitness stuff because I was track team captain in college, and I kept this big book of my coach was an Olympic 7'6" high jumper. And he trained under the U.S. Olympic coach, and he kept his book of workouts. So I actually have Olympic quality plyometric and workouts related to core, lower body, and explosiveness training. So might even start throwing up some fitness stuff because you got to cover your bases as a man. You got to mitigate your risk, push in your career, which Daniela, you're a great mentor from what I've seen. And you gotta keep your body together. So,
all right.
Yep.
That's why you got those options, man.
Right.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Devil's Advocate. And then, ladies, final thoughts, and then drop your if you want people to find you. Tui, go ahead.
I don't need any more people to find me. Please don't even look. Can't handle it. But this was probably one of the better conversations that we've had, like where we weren't like I guess like last time I think we broke Fatty last time. I'm sorry, Fatty, if you're still on here.
It was me. It was me.
Fatty, forgive us. But this is a good conversation. I think I'd like to see a continuation of this with like either single fathers, because I'm curious to see. I'm just curious, but this was a good conversation to have, and confirmation from Taniela, everything Taniela said. Thanks, buddy. Like it's giving me life right now, so I'm just stoked for that. I maybe did not pick incorrectly. Maybe we'll see.
No worries, Tui. And Tui, I know you always say your shit, but I always appreciate your shit on this podcast.
Wait. Speaking of shit, I just want to give a shout out to Savage Island. If you guys do want to find someone on social media, Savage Island, and be sure to mention Boto Cream to him, and he will give you a discount.
Yeah, shout out to Savage, man. Shout out to Savage. And this podcast, he's doing this thing. And Natasha, final thoughts and how can they find you?
My handle is here. Instagram, my TikTok. It's all personal life stuff. It's nothing crazy. Not that interesting. But final thoughts. I want to speak to the men. If a single mom you're pursuing doesn't have custody of her kids, please let that speak volumes to how she's going to treat you and possibly treat your future, because that is a really big indicator that maybe she's not it. That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Yes. All
Sorry,
right.
I really said that with my whole chest, but I think that it's really important because, that just needed to be said.
Yeah. What's the stats on that, Devil? I'm just joking.
I'm so curious because I can give you numbers to help that if you need it.
What's the stats on the women who don't have custody?
Not looking too good. I think men get custody less than 10% of the time. This is probably old because I've been hearing this stat for years, but men get custody of less than 10% of the time. Women get custody, I thought it was like 85% of the time, but then there's like 7-ish% where the woman doesn't show up in court or pursue custody. So the real percentage in terms of your odds are less than 10. So
they are out there, though,
so like she says, that will speak volumes. And I saw people were saying they can't find my channel. Yeah, it is a real small channel. I think my last video I did, it was a reaction. If you type hose B lion, like garden hose BEE lion LION. It was a meme. Man finds out daughter isn't his. You should find my channel because that was the last video I posted. But it's hard. So the struggle of having a small channel. Will, you were there once. I know you kind of get bigger quickly now. I'm still in the
still small
phase.
No, I'm still working my way up, brother. No, that's facts, Natasha. The American court system is built heavily favored for the woman to get custody of the kids, and she still doesn't get custody when it's in her favor to get it. That's
And also thank you to you, Will, for just creating this platform, because a lot of the things that we discuss culturally are taboo topics and are things that are not normally discussed. So shout out to you, and know that you're appreciated for what you do.
No worries. Thank you. That's the very few shout outs from women I get.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Natasha. David, Daniela, thank you for taking the time to be on here, Tui. And also shout out to the live chat, Fatty, everybody out there, Posse, Underground Rose, everybody always tune in every single day. Thank you so much for being on the live chat and your support on the show. I couldn't do this without you guys, and I couldn't do it without the panel. As much effort I do on this, I try to put the show together, but I couldn't have done it without you guys taking the time out of your day to be on here. So thank you so much. And we do this every single Wednesday, 9 p.m. Pacific time. If you guys want to be part of the podcast as well, I drop my social media links. Just send me a DM or email my email. It's going to be the descriptions below, and you guys can be part of the panel as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Hold on. Go ahead. Shout out to Get Lost. She comes for me every time there's a video going up in the comments.
Yeah, Get Lost and the Tongan lady that always drops comments in Tongan. But thank you so much. We do definitely have a new show every week, and I'll see you guys there. And peace, y'all. I'm gonna end the podcast right now. Peace.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, gents.
Bye.